It's not trivial internal travel. It's hours and hours.
To the main event.
Excitement.
So we're expecting a lot of people here tonight. So earlier we saw the participants.
The booking experience.
Excuse me, I hope you could hear you heard what was going on there. We had the participants who doing the experiment. They had their blood tested, they've done some other things, and they've now eaten 2 bars, randomized different bars, and we're going to test their blood sugar, their blood glucose, and their ketone response over the night. In the meantime, we're going to discuss some of the things that affect the ketogenic response to a food, which are personal and different per person, and so maybe both people would have the same bar, but they'd get a different response. And why is that? Why does that happen? And if the nutrition labels, they actually help us to understand what is ketogenic versus not. So those are some of the themes we're going to be exploring tonight. And the whole point is to get some data on this, and then to look at it and learn something from the night. So that's what we're going to be doing tonight. You can see a few people have started to arrive. So maybe what we're going to do is we're waiting for the other people to arrive. So in the meantime, we're still getting a little bit set up. So excuse the mess, but basically we'll say hello to a few of the people here in a second to give you an idea of who attends these Keto London events, and so maybe you can see if you'd like to join sometime, or maybe you can learn something from them, because they're all doing keto for different reasons: weight loss, inflammatory reasons, therapeutic. And hi, how are you doing?
Very good.
Good. You got a microphone?
Yes, microphone's now working. They are fully charged. I'm just going to do a quick shout out just to scoop out to those who aren't staying for the event, and then so give you another 5 minutes or so. Is that alright?
I think I know quite a few people haven't arrived yet, so you might want to stall.
I'll just
Do you want me to go and find you, or are you going to be? Or you can shout out.
I'm going to be here. I'll just do a shout out just so that people who have just arrived at the end know there's an event going on.
Okay.
But I'll say it starts in 15 minutes.
Yeah, that's probably.
Is that okay?
Thank you. Organising stuff.
Hi everyone. Thanks for being here today. It's great to see so many people in the atrium. Just so you know, the event on keto diets is going to be starting in about 15 minutes. So if you are staying for the event, then please do take a seat. If you're not here for the event, please feel free to use the bin taps on floors 2 and 3. Thanks.
So I think I might give this to Elliot. Okay. We have 2 microphones this time. So last time we did one, I had to run around. So when Elliot comes back, can you give him this?
Give it Elliot the microphone.
Tell him that. So you can give it to people. Okay. You can give it to people and he presses that so that they can talk into it. All right, and they can switch it off afterwards. Otherwise, they'll have all sorts of sound.
I'll do this.
So don't worry, but just keep it on you when he comes back. So when I think he's welcoming people. So just during the talk, when people want to talk, say something.
What are we doing with the live stream in the meantime?
Talk to a few people. I actually have to make a quick phone call though. So sorry guys, for the moment we're just going to have you looking at the commotion, I guess. It's on this side. See how it widened? It's like magic. In that info, and if anyone wants to talk, just drop one up. Listen to Damien throwing all sorts of commands out. A bit hectic. I can go and talk to a few people with this. Keep things busy. So I'll
Hello, Damien.
Hello, world.
You're live streaming, Facebook stream.
That's it. This is Mark. He's
everybody.
a long time. You came to the first ever Keto
I
London.
came to the first ever keto.
It's like 2 years. I don't know.
About a
It's
year ago?
Yeah. No, it's longer now. It's like a year and a half.
About a year and a half.
It'll be 2 years in February
know.
or something. Crazy.
So what's Damien going to teach us today?
We are going to talk about the ketogenic response to foods, and we're all going to learn from an experiment with 9 people getting their test. They're getting tested right now. I don't know if you read about it. So they're eating 2 bars, randomized. It's 9 people, so 3 people for each. There's 3 bars.
And are they all fat adapted?
They're all keto, so they're getting their baselines taken.
Okay.
And then we're going to see what happens to them over 2 hours. Blood glucose, blood ketones, and we're going to look at the response, and then we're going to try and learn something from it. That's kind of the thing. So we'll talk about carbs, fibers, protein, although I don't know what to say about protein, quite frankly. Mark might have more to say about it than I do.
It depends what your goals are.
Yeah, so that's it. So, are you still what are you up to?
Yeah, heavily keto at the moment. I am doing a CBL, so a hybrid of a targeted ketogenic and a cyclical ketogenic. Manipulating my carbs, using quite a lot of glycogen depletion at this moment in time. Results are good. So my form is a carb backload, so I deviate from a standard ketogenic, pure keto. I ingest carbs once a week, but it's what type of carbs and how much.
And then you test it on the ketonics and cause us to have to go and do experiments on the thing.
I do, and I've got some fantastic results on there, and funnily enough, the results are now tying in. So my focus, starting to tie in with more metabolic flexibility.
Can you tell Matt about that? Because we've designed an experiment. We're talking to ketonics, and we're running it to show what it can and can't do.
I would love to, because I've been dealing with...
You can do it with him if you want to.
I would love to interface, because I love the tool. It's great. But at this moment in time, I'm like, I need to get my blood works in line with that. So obviously, I've got a keto mojo to make sure that I've got really granular results.
Great. Well, so maybe you'd like to do the experiment with him. He's going to be doing it in the next few weeks. It's all written out. He can send you it to, it's been sent to Ketonics.
Let me pick up with him, because I normally deal with the guys from Ketonics, and I've had some very, very strange results. So technically I use it even after ingesting a huge amount of carbs, maybe 600 grams, I am in ketosis the next morning. Heavy.
This is what we've been talking to Ketonics about, and we've designed an experiment to try and figure out what it's able to capture, what it's not able to capture, and I'm not sure if we can figure out why, but we can definitely tell what it's useful for and what it may not be useful for. That's the idea of the experiment.
Yeah, one of the key findings from using Ketonics has been use it at the same time each day, under the same conditions, and I've started to notice that pre-heavy weightlifting days, my ppm values are pretty low because I am very well rested. What's interesting, I'll pick up with Matt, HRV rates seem to have a huge impact upon ppm readings.
So when they go low?
So when I'm well rested, ppm drop. However, when the body is highly stressed, ppm values shoot up.
So when your HRV is lower, your ppm values go up.
So the difference, So if I'm stressed, so the difference between morning and evening HRV rates, if there is a narrow gap, means ppm values are going to start to skyrocket. However, if there's a massive gap which shows great amount of rest between the evening and the morning, so the bigger the gap, the lower the ppm values. They're the trends I'm starting to see.
Okay, interesting.
So it's really, really quite interesting. So after a heavy weightlifting session, ppm values shoot through the roof from a complete, let's say...
you have to talk to Matt, he's going to love this stuff.
Yeah.
So he's going to be here soon. I've got to talk to other people. Thank you, Mark. Say goodbye to Facebook.
Bye, everybody. Speak soon.
Want me to take over for a bit? Where is everyone? Let me...
Aaron is over there.
Okay, give me a sec. Just go and...
Hey guys, you are now under my patronage. I'm Murdo. I've been with Keto Source for a couple weeks now. I'm going to go find some people to talk to about the event, see what their thoughts are. Hey, do you guys want to be part of the live stream? Part of the live stream? Sure. So we're padding for time at the moment until the presentation starts. So we're just going to take a seat. Get your names for the lovely people on Facebook. Oh, hey.
Hey guys, I love the kit.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. Directional mic, everything.
Nice,
So what are you guys'
nice
names?
little guinea pig.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Mark. Hello, Facebook. My wife might be watching. Hello, darling, if you're there.
Hi, I'm Ali.
I've got a bar for you. Look, I've got a bar.
The dead cat's just sort of coming
we go.
in
There we
shot.
Professional
It's fine.
photography.
Yeah.
So, how long have you guys been doing keto?
18 months.
18 months. Wow. It's a long time. Yourself?
About 6 years.
6 years.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. I've been doing it for negative 1 month so far, starting January.
And so, key question is, why are you doing it?
So I'm doing it to lose weight.
Yeah.
What about you guys? What's the main?
Well, I did it because my wife needed to do it for her health condition, so she's prescribed by a naturopath. Basis for human health, paleo-ketogenic or ketogenic diet.
How long's your wife been doing it for?
18 months.
18 months.
We August 20th, 17. That we just came home from an appointment. We're keto now. Went through our cupboards, chucked out 2/3 of it. Started by found good organic veg, good organic meats, free range, nice, custom cuts, nice and fatty for me. She's vegetarian, a little bit harder. But when you're a carnivore, absolutely piece of piss. And amazing. Absolute magic.
So what inspired you both to really start keto as an option to everything else that was on the market?
Sorry, what was what?
So why were the two of you? Why did you guys specifically choose to do keto? Was it recommended to you, or?
No, so as I say, my wife was told, in order to get better, especially if you've got autoimmune or an inflammatory disease, keto is, it's not like it's a cure for that. The idea is that what isn't keto, i.e. being a glucose burner, is what brings about insulin resistance and everything that goes with it. So when you go keto, you're getting back to the basis of a good diet for the human body, and then it can begin to heal. Might still need some extra help, but at least you're not kind of trying to push against the flow, because you're throwing, you're burning glucose, you're creating inflammation in the body, all that kind of stuff. So anyway, we embrace that pretty quickly because there's shitloads of science out there which will tell you that. So it's not like oh, this is some crazy wacky idea, which you might think to begin with, and then you check it out and think, actually, there's plenty of stuff behind this. As this guy knows, 6 years. And from all walks of life, which is the great thing. I'm sure as you talk to different people, you get different stories, because some people do it because they've got to do it for health. Other people will do it because they want to lose weight. Other people do it because they've got, they're trying to fight cancer, they've got epilepsy, they want to be endurance athletes. And it's just brilliant because there's a sharing of knowledge that all comes together in a bunch of people, which hopefully realise, shit, I'm healthier than I used to be. This is good. My body thanked me after 2 or 3 weeks. Well, you'll find this. I hope. Yeah. I'm sure. The first 2 or 3 weeks, you get your head round it. You think, is this real? Really, I'm supposed to eat. I can have a full English breakfast virtually every day, and I lost 3 stone, and I felt cleaner and mental clarity and everything that went with it. And it just works basically.
Did you find it quite hard to adjust to the keto lifestyle?
Only from a mindset perspective, because you ask your GP what you should eat. You're 5 a day. Should I eat lots of saturated fat? No, you mustn't eat saturated fat. It's really bad for you. It's all asked about face. So when you then read about, or you hear about it, then you read about it, you check out people like Dom D'Agostino, who's a professor, he knows all about nutrition, he'll tell you what it's all about, why it works, and you can kind of relate it. I understand a lot more now about how my body works and what constitutes health than before, where before I just thought it was a lottery, that I'm either going to die of cancer like my mum, or heart disease like my dad, or Alzheimer's like my sister-in-law. All of those diseases stem from insulin resistance. Now, okay, I'm still going to die, and I may well die of one of those things, but I don't feel like it's such a lottery anymore. And I feel at least for me, I'm doing my body a favour by saying, okay, let's get back to basics. But everything I eat now is food. because the things that I don't eat are not food. You know, the potatoes and the rice typically I avoid. You might have the odd little bit of something if I feel like it, but generally I know what constitutes good food. I get good quality veg, I get good quality meat. Never hungry, never tired. Brilliant.
It's great to hear. What about you? Did you have any major troubles adjusting to keto, or did you find it quite easy to get into it?
First time getting into keto is
Cat's in the way
a
again.
little bit different. Depends what approach you take. I got into it on the back of some stuff that Finney and Volette did. They wrote a book called The Low Carbohydrate Athlete, and we were looking at how do we get better performance out of endurance athletes, and that kind of went. We were seeing by going on, creating what some people call fat adaptation. We were getting greater amounts of power production from fuels other than carbohydrates. So the general, you go back and look at some of the stuff that Tim Noakes has done, and it's been the whole cycle of using carbohydrates to fuel performance, to using fat to fuel performance. The reality is, what we found was it is one of a number of tools that can help either individuals or people that you're coaching to improve performance, and there's definitely value in fat adaptation, and that also then threw out some other things we weren't necessarily expecting outside of just performance gains. So being able to go harder, faster, longer was kind of the clarity. You kind of talked about this is it goes beyond just physical performance. It goes it's the mental performance, and then you've got some of the things like aging, and we're starting to see some insightful things. And when I met Damien a few years ago, what struck me was his focus on quantified self, measuring stuff. That's why earlier on, it's got to keep. We're pushing the boundary here, and the more people that hear it, try it, I think will start to see the value in it. So it's a good thing.
Yeah.
Part of the armoury.
Yeah, definitely a great tool. I'll take us away, and we will start doing an inventory of everyone around, see who we can find to have a chat with.
Thank you, guys.
You're hiding in plain sight. I was on a hunt for you.
Were you?
Yeah, I was looking for Murdo. Couldn't find him anywhere. He was sitting down the whole time. No. I was just coming to see how the Facebook Live was going. They've seen enough of me. I've been doing selfies for ages. Yeah. I'm looking for people in running shoes to go and talk about exercise, and I found one, but you're already interviewing him. So I'm not sure about that. You could have, found someone else. I'm kidding. But, who are we going to talk to now? Let's find someone.
I'm just I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just spending time talking to something else.
Right, let's find. Hey guys, we're going to go and find someone interesting to speak to.
Take a photo.
Here is Murdo.
Hi.
He is a big fan of numbers.
I am a giant fan of numbers.
And that's all.
That is all I do.
Following Damien.
Number less than 1.
Wait, not 10 minutes. We have to take blood again.
Yeah, so we're going to take blood again in 10 minutes. Bye.
Hi, Erin.
Is that like to make sure you nab everyone?
Everybody is sitting here.
It's a spy.
It is. Everybody is sitting here.
Here's everyone ready for Damien's incredible talk. That hasn't happened yet. No, show us what's in your pocket.
I am preparing my graphs for later on. The graphs are going to be fantastic graphs, the best graphs that have ever been seen.
Graphs. Facebook Live's coming over here. Yay! Everyone's excited about
Right.
So,
It's not very good. Your laptop, tablet, rather.
apparently we can hear
like
people.
that
on
thing.
this
That's really good.
This is all Damien. It means nothing to me. Don't even.
Oh, okay.
Is it a speaker? Like a microphone?
No, it's, we were just discussing they were quite filling the bars.
Yeah.
I think it's a tribble.
So
I think it's a tribble on the end of there. Did you ever watch Star Trek?
I haven't watched Star Trek. So Stephen, you had a keto sauce bar, yeah?
Yeah, I had 2 of them. Yeah.
Joe, you had a.
I had grenade. I found it too sweet. Yeah, I didn't like it. I found it too sweet and
but you don't have a sweet tooth.
Let the professionals do it.
No,
Yeah.
He really knows what this is as well.
I have no clue what this is.
Oh, it's a microphone. 95%.
Always
So
figuring out.
if you were to buy the bar set, would you have a whole bar or just a bar? I have the whole thing.
I find it difficult not to have the whole thing. If I'm going to open up, I have to eat the whole thing, even if I don't feel like it.
Yeah.
Probably not a good habit to have. But yeah,
I'm with you.
I think half the size is just right.
Yeah. No, I agree.
I sorted it out for you.
I don't know what he sorted out.
I did nothing. I just took over, but the mic wasn't picking it up, so I'll let you.
Damien's hiding over there now. He's scared to do his talk.
While you're working, you
Wow.
Okay. Does anyone want a glass of
We're going to find something interesting. Right, so should have about 2 or 3 minutes until Damien's talk begins. What's up here? Oh, Damien's talking to some. Can we zoom in? Oh, there he is. Making friends.
Yeah, but it's about how is the programming with food types.
This sounds like an interesting conversation. Facebook Live would love to hear all about it, Mark.
Too late.
Too late.
Mark tracks everything. Mark, can you tell us what your thoughts are on the ketonics?
I like it. So a lot of people don't. I like it, but you have to take it with a pinch of salt. I would say just use it for basic tracking. Use it at the same time of day. I use it in a non-fed state. First thing in the morning, every day.
Very sensible.
But I certainly would like help from Matt trying to decipher some of the interesting readings that I've been receiving.
Ketonics fascinates us. We found some funny old readings with high carbohydrate meals, but we can chat more about that another day.
Oh, okay. Just because a few said they couldn't find the place.
Okay. Yeah, everyone's got my number. So that would be fine.
Long now until Damien starts his talk. He seems to be joined by people in suits over there. We work sorting out. Did you know? We work have pushed their off. Now, I saw a thing. I think it might have been Piers Morgan, because we all love Piers Morgan.
Oh, do we?
And apparently,
Do we?
they don't pay. No, we don't. He was born near me. They don't pay their staff expenses for food that's not vegan friendly.
Really?
Yeah. Love to hear your thoughts on that, everybody.
We could do a ketogenic experiment with the oil over here.
That looks delicious. They've got some delicious flavors. I'll be trying when I put this down.
Give you a taste here.
Which is the ideal.
Here we have Joe, the king of fasting.
Oh,
I asked a few people earlier what their longest fast was. We had a 6-dayer and we had an 84-hour.
Okay.
Joe, would you care to let us know what your longest fast has ever been?
My longest fast is 10 days. I've just done recently a 5-day one, probably 3 weeks ago I think it was. But I normally just do 36 or 48 hours. I do it a couple of times a week. And it just feels normal now.
How does food taste when you break the fast?
Awesome.
That's what we heard from Stephen. Stephen over here. Said
it does taste good.
He has an avocado to break his fast.
Yeah, that's the same
the
here.
Incredible avocado that he's ever eaten.
Yeah, no, I have, what I do is I put ghee into 2 eggs, mix them up, and then I scramble them. And that, with lots of Himalayan salt, tastes like heaven. Tastes like heaven. And then you throw an avocado in there, it's the best thing in the world. I mean, basically it's all fat, but it's a great fat hit.
Yeah.
And it's very filling because I don't need to eat anything else.
Just like the ketone bars.
Oh yeah, sorry. These are awesome, by the way. Ketone bars, amazing. I haven't actually had one yet because I got given these Grenada bars or something.
Oh, horrible.
Yeah, horrible. Yeah, way too much protein. But this one's, is it 9 grams of protein or something?
Less, I think it's actually 5 grams.
Oh, is it 5 grams? Yeah. I think for me anyway, I've just had 44 grams of protein today from those 2 bars. I think that's a lot.
Joe loves fat.
Yeah, I love fat. You know, fat.
Eat fat, get thin.
Eat fat, sleep with fat women. I mean, joking. No, I didn't say that. Yeah.
We've got to take the Facebook Live down.
Yeah. Cheers.
I'm going to move over to Erin.
Hi.
Sit down. Erin, you're busy.
I am.
I'm pretending to be busy.
I'm pretending to be busy, yeah. I am just getting ready to start testing everybody for their first time point since eating the bars, which is exciting. So we would expect the grenade bars to raise the glucose in pretty much everyone. We would expect the keto bars to raise glucose, but we would expect the keto source ketone bars to lower glucose and actually increase ketones. So we will see. We've got 10 people together that have done the trial for us this evening. So we're just about to do time point 1, and Damien is just about to start the presentation. So stay tuned.
Quickly before he starts, Erin,
Yeah.
what makes the keto source ketone bars special? Why are they going to increase ketones if the other ones decrease
Because they
ketones?
are so delicious.
Well, I've already
I'm
made people say that.
slightly biased, yeah, because they're
Just a quick
so
caveat, guys. I've been trash talking grenade a lot, and in case you're watching grenade, no, I'm kidding. I love grenade bars, but poor Erin here gets kicked out of ketosis. by
Every
no
single
grenade.
time I eat grenade bars,
Yeah.
I get kicked out of ketosis. Every single time. So I like the keto source bars because they raise my ketones.
That's not.
It's not
We're just telling the truth. We're just telling the truth. Are we about
This
to...
person is biased. She works for Keto Source.
Yes, but the results are not biased and the results do not lie, which we will see later.
Data doesn't lie, and I
Data doesn't
I
lie.
love grenade bars, but
I think it's about time.
I'll eat them anyway. Do you know what? We know it's not all about chasing ketones here at Keto Source, but this is going to be interesting.
Yeah, this is going to be interesting.
Yeah.
A silence. Ooh, silence.
Who's this? I'm going to turn you around now, and we are going to listen to Damien's talk.
We are obviously really happy that you guys are here. It's really great to have the space used by people that come in externally for events. So if you have any questions about the space and using it for events, or you want to know more about co-working here, then please let me know. I've got a number of free trial day cards as well, so if anyone wants to come in and use the space at any time for free, then just grab me at any time. We've also got a swag table, so helps out to a couple of freebies, got some t-shirts and bags, things like that. Also, the beer on tap is obviously completely free and helps out to tea and coffee as well in the pantry. Have a lovely time. Over to Damien and team.
I think I just have to reboot it. One second. Is it disconnected? Sorry. Welcome, everyone. So, can you hand this to Elliot with your arms? Thank you. Cool. Thank you, everyone, for coming to our Keto London event. We've been around for about 18 months now, but this is the best turnout we've seen so far. So thank you all for coming. I hope you can have an enjoyable evening, and thank you for the participants who came over early to take part in the experiment. So let me put a better screen up for you guys rather than my desktop. And the first thing is that basically we're running an experiment tonight. So people came an hour early. They came around 5 o'clock, 10 people I think it was. And they are just about to get their second blood reading. They had their first blood reading for blood glucose or blood ketones at 5:30. And that was before they ate 2 bars, which were randomized. They were given 1 of 3 different types of bars, which we'll look at a little bit later. All of them are said to be low carb. sometimes ketogenic, and they're sold in the health stores, and a lot of people buying these things. So it'll be interesting to see what they actually do. And 10 people isn't exactly statistically relevant, but it's interesting. So we'll see what comes out of that. So for the people who are participating tonight, it's time to get your second blood reading. So if you could queue up or just watch Erin and Matt in the corner, or maybe it's just Erin. Like, this guy's organized and stuff, I have no idea. But basically, look over that direction, and if it's ever free and you haven't had your blood tested, please skip over there and get it done. Thanks for that. Okay, so tonight is all about is what you eat ketogenic? I think this is an interesting topic because I've been tracking blood personally for many years, and I've had many surprises along the way when I've tested things, and I wasn't ketogenic sometimes, and sometimes I was more ketogenic. So I've always relied on blood personally, and I know because we, in my company with a consulting practice, we work with a lot of people. That's not normally the case. Most people don't actually use blood to check if they're in ketosis or not. Some people use urine strips or other manners. So they've got a different view of when they're in ketosis. So if you're going on internet forums or other places, people might be saying, yeah, I'm in ketosis, but you should probably ask, how do you know that? Like, what are you doing? Is that based on macros? Or how do you know you're actually in ketosis and you're following a ketogenic diet? So the first thing I wanted to do tonight is just figure out what we as a group think about some statements. I thought it'd be a little bit fun to do this at the beginning of the night, and then do it at the end of the night after we've collected some data, we've had an experiment, and maybe it will just change some of our minds a little bit, or maybe we'll think exactly the same. So I thought it'd be kind of interesting to do that first. So, Matt, are you going to make sure to... Could you put your hands up if you think this is a true statement? Some carbs are ketogenic. I think that was free. Could you put your hands higher, please?
I got three. I see 3.5.
Alright, only 3 people. So, I wonder how many are here. Matt or Matt, could you make sure to count how many people are here? Some fibers are not ketogenic. A few more. Could you raise your hands high, please, so we can get a count? That's a semi, there you go. There's another semi there. You're getting the semis as well? No? Alright, everyone, I'm sorry. I'm going to have to ask you to please put your hands really high in the air so that even Matt can count your hands. There's quite a few of you who think that this is true. Some fibers are not ketogenic.
I've got 19.
19. Okay, all right, we'll go with 19. This is not going to be a scientifically accurate true or false test. Sorry about that. Sleep defines how ketogenic your response is to foods. Yeah, I was waiting for someone to say that. Defines means that if I sleep really well, like take 2 extremes, I slept really terrible last night, or I slept really well, or I just chronically sleep really badly, or I chronically sleep really excellently, is that going to affect my ketogenic response to foods in terms of, if I eat a food, is it going to be ketogenic? Is it going to be, increase my ketones or keep my ketones at least flat? Or is it going to spike my glucose? So if it spikes my glucose, it's not ketogenic. So would sleep affect that? Let's do a recount because Hero's not sure.
When you say glucose, you didn't say insulin.
It's the same thing. If you spike your glucose, it'll spike your insulin.
If your insulin will respond differently based on your sleep.
Yes, potentially. Don't give away the story.
They're all going up.
Please decide yes or no, true or false, not in between. Okay, let's do it the easy way, because everyone seems to believe that one. Is there anyone who thinks it's false? Is this statement false? Okay, that was easier. Sorry, I'll try and do that one. 1. How about this one? You can tell if a food is ketogenic based on its nutritional information label, which is the macros, right? So it says little squares on the backs of packets which say carbs, saturated fat, oh my god, salt, fat, all of this stuff. What do you think? Is that true? You can tell if a food is ketogenic based on its nutritional label. Oh, sorry, you can't. Trust Damien's trying to mess that up, sabotage the whole thing. I do have another microphone somewhere, by the way, just to make this easier. Where is that?
You can't tell if the food is ketogenic based on the nutritional information label, true or false.
Exactly.
You can't.
So if it's true, you basically will, if you think that's true, you will not look at the box on the back of packages because you'll be like, I can't use that. Don't want to do with it.
I'm not saying that. You're confusing me.
So no one thinks this is true. Zero. Zilch. One. We have one. We have two. We have three. We have 5, 6. Is this an auction or what's going on here? 7, 8. Sorry, you being over there, I don't see you often. You'll have to like shout as well or something. We'll call that 9 because we're going to stop it now. People are just joining in for the fun of it. 9.
I've got 9.
Okay. You can always tell if a food is ketogenic for you personally from its ingredients list. That's the other part of packages, of course. The long list of ingredients.
You can always. No, actually no. It depends if you've slept well or not.
So you can read the ingredients. You can read the ingredients and know if it's ketogenic or not. Always. Always. No? So you can't believe the ingredients. Alright, got 1, 2. No? Not this time? 1, 2. We'll call it 2.
Do you have the microphone? No, that's it.
This is the last one. We're nearly home. Nearly there, guys. There's no standard ketogenic response. We are all very, very different. We're all unique in the world, right? Alright, let's do it the easy way. Obviously, people like this one. Who thinks that's false? 100%. That's our first 100% one. Okay. Thanks for all that. It'll be interesting to see if we've changed a bit, and if it's not just due to Matt's counting or not. Right, so what I thought it would be nice to also see is, like, all of us manage our ketogenic diets in different ways. You know, when I was doing this in the beginning, I used to test my blood a lot. I don't test it anymore. Very rarely. Some people, I think, I just know from experience, just count carbs. They just, read carbs on a packet, or they know the amount of carbs in a meal, or something like that. Are any of you just doing that? Is that how you manage your ketogenic diet if you're on one? Okay, so I guess right. There's a few people doing that. The next thing people do is they decide, this is a ketogenic food, this isn't a ketogenic food. And they kind of have a list, so maybe they Google, and people have lists of ketogenic foods, they have lists of ketogenic meal plans, and you print those out, and you put them on your refrigerator, and then maybe put it in your shopping list, and you just order that stuff, because that's the ketogenic stuff. Who does that? Some of you do, several, I'm pretty sure of this. Pretty undecided. You're obviously multitasking. And then macros. Now, my bet is that most people are macros driven here, because that's what I've seen. Who counts macros? Who looks at those macro charts and is always thinking about macros? I want to get my macros in, my protein, my carbs, my fat, is it the right fit? Alright, so we'll say about 40% here. Who looks at ingredients? We were just dissing ingredients a bit there, but that's actually interesting. As more people are interested in the ingredients. Hopefully you're getting an idea that the ketogenic diet isn't the same for everyone, right? We're all here together today because we don't have many ketogenic friends out there. But and we make good friends here. But the other thing is that we're all heterogeneous in our approach to this as well, which you can also see on the internet, by the way. I mean, put any word in front of ketogenic and you'll get a different opinion. So it's always interesting to do that. Then we have people who like the keto sticks, the urine strips. There's many versions of that. Who's using those? A few people. And Mike has been doing this for years. How many years have you been on the keto diet? 10 and a half.
I'm dead twice.
Yeah, Mike has been doing this for a very long time. So that's interesting. Blood testing, does anyone blood test? That's just quite a few people. Do you guys find it's a bit of a hassle? Blood testing?
Yeah, it's expensive.
Expensive, yeah, right. It's far too expensive. Someone needs to fix that. Any entrepreneurs out there want to fix it? Please do. And then one of my favorites, continuous glucose monitor. Has anyone been using one of these? Freestyle Libre is the one we have in the UK. I just see one person, so that's maybe not so common. A lot of diabetics use the Freestyle Libre glucose monitor, and that will track 24 hours where your glucose is. It's going up and down, and if it's going up, of course, it's probably not ketogenic. So that's another way to look at it. And I put this in a kind of long chain, because some people start over here, and they kind of get more interested in keto, and they steadily go through this. They test more, they put more effort in, get a continuous glucose monitor. So people who put your hand up to get a continuous glucose monitor, you know, are you pretty fanatic about ketosis?
No, I misunderstood the question. I've got my own glucometer, that's what I was
Press the button. Yeah, does it work? Speak.
Yeah, sorry, I actually misunderstood the question. I've got my own own glucometer, so that was not what you meant.
Is anyone using a continuous glucose monitor?
No, it wasn't working.
Okay, all right, unfortunately not. But basically, people tend to move along there, and eventually, someone might just know what an ingredient is going to do to them because they had a continuous glucose monitor on for a few months, like diabetics like this, right? Because they have to manage his life or death. So that's what they're doing. So my bet was basically most people use macros. That's what you guys see. All right, for this bit, who else would like to explain what the difference is between the US and the United Kingdom in terms of nutrition labels? Is it working? Matt's going to run over to you. Give you a microphone. Just let people know who you are.
Oh, my name is Hero, H.I. In the U.S., the fiber is calculated differently. It's not, the total carbs in the U.S. includes the fiber. In the U.K., the fiber is separate. In the U.S., the RDAs, whether they have RDAs, recommended daily allowance of the vitamins and minerals, and the numbers are different. Like vitamin C might be 80 milligrams in the U.S. and it's only 40 here. Potassium, I think, is 3,500 here and 4,700 in the U.S. So there are also differences related to the amounts that are recommended.
It's quite detailed. And this is pretty typical of people who come to Keto London, by the way. they know their stuff. So yeah, the fiber is the big one. And so I guess the reason I bring that up is because when you Google online, a lot of the information is from the US. And you'll be reading that, and it might trip you up if you're reading something. They talk a lot about net carbs, because the guys in the US have to always subtract this dietary fiber from their carb number in their nutrition labels. So they're always talking about net carbs. Got to get rid of that fiber there, because fiber doesn't impact our blood glucose, apparently. So this is some testing I did on myself about a year and a half ago. I was checking out fibers. What do fibers do to me? And apologies, this is blood glucose in American standard for you guys. It's just something I got used to, so I was using that. But basically, about 20 milligram per deciliter is about 1 millimolar, just in comparison. So as you can see, there's quite a big difference there in some of the fibers. For me personally, I'm not saying it's for everyone. So, you know, a couple of the flat is the acacia fiber, the chicory root is pretty flat. The soluble corn fiber is quite a big spike there, it's 40 milligrams, right? And then the isomalto, you see this one called IMO, isomalto oligosaccharides. You'll see these in chocolates and stuff like that. Those ones, you know, I found have the very, very quick spike and pretty high. The reason, by the way, I put the times is because I've also seen in my personal testing that circadian rhythm, the time of day, will affect my readings. And so I try to standardize when I'm testing for the same time of day, just to try and eliminate any biases there. So that one, it's a little bit of a different time there. Has anyone else tested different fibers or had responses to any food with fiber in them that they were surprised about?
Generally, higher fiber in the diet seems to kind of help me stay in ketosis. So, but it's been low, and it's been fibrous vegetables, non-root vegetables.
Okay, so those are fine for you, right?
Yeah.
So what would be a fibrous vegetable?
Kale.
Kale. Right, kale is fine. Good. Anyone else?
Anything cruciferous. Anything cruciferous.
What was that?
Anything cruciferous.
Right, so you've got no problems with that?
Yeah, and chia seeds.
Okay, I like chia seeds too. Anyone else? So sometimes I just put up a relative index because it makes it easier for me to read. So that's just showing you just the change in blood glucose. So yeah, it shows the same results, but just shows the change there. Maybe 50 up to 75 milligrams per deciliter. This is just one to show you what that does to ketones. Most of you probably know what happens when you raise glucose. It drops your ketones. Often it does it at a lag, so sometimes your glucose will go up and then it'll be half an hour later your ketones will start dropping. It really kind of depends. So here, you just see that the biggest spike one and the impact it had on my blood ketones there. Has anyone got anything to say about this?
What food did you eat that had that fiber in it?
So I was using pure fiber samples with nothing else in them. I know some chocolate products. People are using it as a low-carb sweetener. So you'll find it in a lot of products which they're trying to cut out the sugars and they're trying to replace it with something. It'll always have that long name, not just the IMO, but it's quite common. It was probably more popular about 4 years ago because there's some other ones coming into the market.
What quantity did you consume?
So that was 14, I think it was 14 or 20 grams, I think it was on the other chart. This is all the same, yeah. So that was 14.75 grams.
The comment is, some people count total carbs, some people say your total carbs should include the fiber that you had in there also. So if some people say you should have 20 grams of carbs a day, that includes fiber. Some people say it should be net carbs. And this is kind of saying it should be total carbs. You shouldn't subtract the fiber because some fibers have an impact on your ketones.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Also, I don't know if everyone heard that here.
There are differences of opinions about how to count carbs on a ketogenic diet. Some people say you should count the total carbs. So if you're eating 15 grams of carbs and it's 5 grams of fiber, you should count that as 20. And that should be within your limit of 20 per day. And there are other people that say you should just count net carbs. So you could have 20 grams of carbs, but 15 of them were fiber, so in total you have 35. So this is kind of saying that it's better to count the carbs in your total to be safe.
That's definitely one way to look at it, yeah. Anyone else?
You can just measure, just test it on yourself. Try it once and see what it does to you, then you'll know.
So there's one vote for measuring every time. well, just to figure out a food, right? And then you'll know what it does to you personally.
Another observation is that there are real food keto people, and there are people that eat a lot of products. And most of these fibers come in keto products. I eat meat and vegetables, so I don't really have to worry about those fibers, so I don't test for them.
That's the way to go. Yeah. Real food. Yeah.
It's preference.
Anyone else want to throw their opinion, ideas in?
Just a quick question. From this, from it lowering below the baseline with acacia fibre, is that suggesting therefore that acacia fibre it has a ketotic effect?
It suggests that basically it has no effect. It's having zero impact. That it's nothing. That basically means nothing. There's a problem with glucose monitors, by the way, that they're quite variable. They're not very accurate. So I got quite frustrated when I was first using them. I had to call the companies and figure it out. Basically, the only way I found to get a good result out of a glucose meter is to track 3 times for every test. And I would track once, then I track second time. If the next value is far off, if it's not right next to it, I'll test a 3rd time, and then I just average the 3 values. But sometimes I'll get 1 millimolar difference in that blood glucose reading, and it's in their technical documentation that that's possible. Fortunately, in the ketone strips, the blood ketone strips, that isn't a problem. They're much more accurate. I'm not really sure why. But the blood glucose strips aren't that accurate. So some deviation like this, meaningless. You're looking for the big changes. Anything else? All right. So moving on to a little bit to carbs. I don't know if you guys who's still eating carbs, some sort of carbs. Who thinks carbs are quite, are fine? Anyone want to talk about that?
Depends what your goal is.
Depends on the person and what goal.
Depends on your goal.
Depends on the person and what kind of carbs. Some people can have berries and they're fine. I mean, vegetables are carbs. I eat spinach as a carb.
Mark? Depends on your goal. If you're going to be a standard keto practitioner and you want to stay in a ketogenic state all the time, that's fine. Let's say you're a crossfitter or you want something which is high intensity, you want some carbohydrates. You might be going for more metabolic flexibility rather than just keeping a pure ketogenic state.
I dare to say you need carbs for optimal health. Actually, yes.
Why is that?
Oh.
Some carbs. First of all, you want to stay metabolically flexible. So when you don't have any carbs and you're always keto, you lose the ability to use carbs. Your body doesn't use it effectively. You don't get the benefits. And also our bodies are made to eat carbs cyclically. Say when the sun shines more, we can tolerate more carbs. Our insulin sensitivity is different. There's a difference between convenience and optimal health, which is the holy grail, I would say.
So optimal health, is it some kind of cycling of carbs? Is that what you're talking about? Or
metabolic flexibility?
No, if one wants to be in optimal health, I would say one does need to have some carbs in their diet, or not be ketogenic all the time.
Any specific carbs you're thinking?
No.
Any carb?
Any carb.
Like I can have a donut?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
You may take it.
I haven't had a donut in 7 years.
I've heard that your gut bacteria actually need starchy carbs to survive and thrive, like the good gut bacteria apparently. So a certain amount of starchy carbs from time to time can be beneficial to your overall health and well-being, I think. But obviously it's all about the timing of them and the amount that you have. It's obviously it's all down to your personal agenda, I suppose.
Yeah, great. I mean, people have very different agendas, I think, that here.
I think this issue is one of the issues that makes the ketogenic diet confusing because everyone kind of has different opinions. And when I listen to people that are talking about like the gut biome, gut bacteria, they're not absolutely sure yet. So it's one of those things that makes a beginner come to a ketogenic diet kind of confused. Like, should I do a cyclical ketogenic diet? Should I do a targeted ketogenic diet? So just for people that are confused by this, it's something that's debatable and it's personal. So you have to try and figure it out on your own.
Yeah, that's a great insight. I mean, I think everyone can recognize that science hasn't really fully understood nutrition, that's for sure.
Because everybody's gut biome is an individual fingerprint, isn't it? And it's not just the flora that's in there, there's also the sort of enzymes that are knocking around there that allow us to process things in different ways and what have you. And there are things on the market that can promote the enzymatic processing of fats now, particularly in America. I think there's a couple of companies doing it. I think one is Gluten Angel or something like that. So you can have it before you have some carbs and it'll promote that processing. So it's clearly like there's some, everybody's different and there's a genetic component to that as well. And then surely the glycemic index of whatever carbohydrate that you're thinking about is going to play into that. And I'm going to sort of question your thing around there and again, genetic interplay and biome.
Your genetic background is key, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, my brother's an Ayurvedic doctor, and in Ayurveda, they're always cycling. So you never let the body get used to whatever it is you're eating. So you're always moving it from, just like with a field, you're always cycling whatever you're growing on it. It's the same with the body. That's in Ayurveda.
I would just like to add that it's a known fact that if you remain in nutritional ketosis already for a long period of time, you will end up getting a rebound hyperglycemia because the liver will use protein to pump glucose back into the blood. And it does it in a very controlled way, and the glucose spikes like the West business.
Could you maybe explain that a little bit simpler? I'm not sure everyone.
Right, I mean, if you stay in nutritional ketosis for too long, and your glucose level gets too low. The liver, on a chronic basis, day in, day out, the liver will break down protein by the process called gluconeogenesis and pump a lot of glucose into the blood. And it does this in very controlled ways. You'll find that your glucose level is spiked very high. And the way to get that down is to eat carbohydrate. So I believe you need to cycle. I mean,
at least 2 breaks for cycling.
We evolve cycling in and out.
I don't agree with you.
Gluconeogenesis is happening all the time anyway, whether you're on a ketogenic diet or not. So it's not, I mean, some people do have uncontrollable blood sugar on a ketogenic diet, yes. But I wouldn't say that it's everyone.
If you're really insulin resistant or pre-diabetic, then that will happen.
Right.
But when you're healthy, it won't happen.
It's not everyone.
Always considering your genetic background, but I think your insulin, depending on what your insulin sensitivity is, and if you're healthy or not.
And gluconeogenesis is not just something purely on gluconeogenesis is basically when your body can use other substrates to create glucose. People don't know what gluconeogenesis is, and it happens whether you're on a ketogenic diet or not.
All the time,
All the
to
time.
maintain homeostasis of glucose, which is the main benefit of ketogenic diet.
Another thing is that people worry about eating too much protein because of gluconeogenesis, because if you're creating too much glucose, it can affect your ketones. So that's why gluconeogenesis is brought up.
It is a topic, Matt and I were discussing this today on Slack, whether it was a thing or not, and you'll see where it's short, because I got a slide with a big question mark on it. So as you can see, carbs is a conflictual topic here. Anyone else? So this is an experiment I did a year ago. I was looking at my personal carb response to carbohydrates, and I was looking at some typical things. Chickpeas, because I miss hummus. I really miss hummus. If I miss anything on the ketogenic diet, it's hummus. Some people are getting away with it, so that's one I miss. White rice, these were green lentils, and black beans cooked. As you can see, I mean, there are pretty different changes to my blood glucose there. It was the same amount of carbs from each, so I calculated the same amount of carbs, not the same amount of food, but the same amount of carb content. And is this the relative one? Hold on, guys, a little bit mixed up. Yeah, that's not that one actually. So here, let's put on the relative axis, so you can see what's actually going on there. So this is my ketones. As you can see, all of them have negatively affected my ketones over time, a slight lag from when the blood glucose went up. Because I'm normally in a, between 2 and 3, somewhere around there, then it actually didn't technically kick me out of ketosis, but I did feel different, because I like to be over 1 person at 1.5. Everyone probably has their preference. So I felt different, and it isn't really the area I would like to be. I'd like to stay over 1 at a minimum. So it's probably not something I would be doing personally, taking these carbs or trying to just take them from time to time for me. But you could see that potentially someone who doesn't mind going down to 1, could get away with having some carbs, maybe some green lentils, as you see there. Actually the green lentils kind of worked. So you could get away with some of that in your meals, potentially, depending on you. This is me, so it's not...
So have you dislocated hummus?
Sorry. So are we saying hummus is it? Because I'm addicted to hummus.
Exactly. The chickpeas are the purple one.
Yeah.
No. Unfortunately, not for me. I would test it. If you love this stuff, I would test it. I know a guy who adds MCT to his hummus, and he gets away with it. He's got Parkinson's. You might have seen that interview. But yeah, he loves hummus, and he always adds MCTs to it in order to be able to take it. So that might be a trick if it doesn't work for you. Anyone else?
There's a hummus with tahini, which has a higher fat content, which you might find keeps you in as well.
How's the taste on that? Because I bought some tahini thinking it was very high fat. Have you guys ever tasted tahini?
You can do cauliflower tahini, and it's almost hummusy. Cauliflower.
It tastes good?
I think
Who wants the microphone?
I think there's a keto source hummus product in the pipeline happening here.
Yeah. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. If anyone wants to make one, I'm partner with you. Solve my hummus problem.
Hummus with ghee, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would do it. Yeah.
Joe puts ghee in everything, by the way. You know, Joe, back there, who puts ghee in everything. If you talk to him for about 5 minutes, he's going to bring up the word ghee.
Several times.
So this is a discussion we kind of started. It's about protein. I don't know what to think about protein, really. You hear about gluconeogenesis, which someone was just talking about. If you have too much protein, if you have high protein, then potentially some of that gets converted to glucose and then kicks you out of ketosis. I don't know. I've never done a protein experiment, so I don't know for myself. I don't know what that does for me. Has anyone done any testing?
Who's the guy? Jimmy Moore. He did a podcast about this where he followed a 1-to-1 ratio or 2-to-1 ratio of protein to fat, and he felt awful. There's also a podcast with Keto Savage where they did 3 months with normal protein, high protein, and somewhere in the middle. The high protein was the worst. So again,
in terms of blood readings, or
when it felt the energy in the morning, the cognition, everything. So some people say that protein doesn't matter. Some people say that it does. For me, I can't have a lot of protein. If I go over 170 grams of protein, I feel awful. Farzana's, she's a part of this group. She was supposed to be here today. She has 190 grams of protein, and she's 5'2" and weighs nothing, and it doesn't bother her. So it's individual. So I don't know if there's any real conclusions, but from the people that have actually done experiments, they felt awful on high protein, and I feel sluggish on high protein.
Anyone else? These guys down here. Can you pass the mic around when? I'll just make it easier for you.
The last few weeks I've been lowering my protein intake, and I do feel a lot better for it. So usually I do have higher amounts, but I feel better for lower.
Yeah, I suffer on a lot of protein as well, so I keep my proteins low, and yeah, around 20-30 grams. It's great, but if I go about 50 grams, I feel shit as well. So.
In a day?
I just want to add one thing. There are some proponents like Stephanie Persons that believe you should go really low protein. For me, there's no satiety. I'm always hungry, and I keep getting weaker in the gym. So you have to find, it's like most things with ketogenic, you have to experiment and find what works for you.
That's a very good answer, yes. Too low protein is really bad long term, really, really bad. You'll be lethargic, you'll start gaining fat, you'll be weak in the gym. And it's individual protein, so it depends on a few things. The main thing is as always, your insulin sensitivity. If you're very insulin sensitive, you can have a lot of carbs. I can have 200 grams of carbs a day and I'm fine. It also depends on the amount and type of training that you do, and also on the amount of muscle mass that you have. So the differences can be quite stark. I mean, you can have a 100-kilo guy who can have 50 grams of protein a day only, or someone like me who can have 200 or even more because of the variables that I just mentioned, yeah. The main one being insulin sensitivity, yeah.
Ross, thank you for that.
I just wanted to add as well in terms of the protein, because I've been experimenting lately as well, and I just would like to clarify that animal protein is the one I'm cutting out, but I'm not cutting out general protein, so I've been consuming more nuts and things like that daily, and actually I feel great, and this is the best substitute for the animal protein.
Are you a keto vegan?
No, I'm not entirely vegan now, but it's just I'm struggling to find meat that's, I don't know, let's say grass-raised pasture, and I'm just trying to find, because I'm struggling, so I eat less meat but more wild-caught fish and things like that.
I think a lot of people are interested in that. So I use personally green pasture farms. I don't know if you guys come across that, because I was struggling to find pasture-fed meat.
I will need to look into it, because I'm struggling to find where to get meat like this here in the UK.
Another thing I experimented with, I can't take whey because whey is very insulinogenic, so it depends on the type of protein too.
It's funny, Matt and I were discussing that. I actually deleted it from the slide. I was like, that one's so random, we're not going to talk about it. But then you bring it up.
So I've just had 2 bars of that Grenada bar thing, 44 grams of protein, and I'm starting to feel it. It's making me lethargic. My eyes are starting to shut a bit, and that is probably the most protein I have in a day. I mean, that's just way too much for me. If it was low, if I just had 1 bite, I reckon I'd be fine. And it's also kicked me out of ketosis. Just let you know.
All right, we'll see the results.
Oh, all right, fair enough.
Mark, have you got anything to say? You're into bodybuilding and stuff, so do you take protein? Do you have an opinion on that?
I take a moderately high amount of protein, probably about 30 to 35%. Have done experiments where I've gone up to probably 60%, and unfortunately I found that I was sluggish. My tolerance was not good for that high. If I keep it about 35%, I'm pretty good. I can take whey, lots of animal protein. It's about complete protein and high quality sources. So where the lady before was saying I'm having nuts and sort of more incomplete proteins, I think we need to look at and say, hey, there's high quality proteins, and you do need to combine the different sort of amino acid profiles.
Thanks for that.
Yeah, one of the things I do is I have bulletproof coffee with 2 raw eggs in it. And I've noticed if I have the eggs raw, the protein I don't notice the protein. It doesn't hit me as if I cook the eggs. So I don't know whether it's because it's being mixed or because of the centrifugal forces, or I don't know what it is. But in my eyes, I don't notice the protein in the eggs when they're raw. But when I cook them, it's a different thing. So.
You've got a gut issue. You've got a gut issue. No, but it's clear he needs to test. It's, can be.
Okay, well maybe you can have that conversation with him personally offline. There's some tips for you and other things you might want to look into, I think. Great, has anyone looked at the carnivore diet? Because that's super popular at the moment.
Carnivore.
Have you been doing it?
I've been doing it since January.
Okay, let's get the mic over there, because that must be high protein, right?
I was just trying to calculate it. I'm just trying to work out in my head as you were talking. It's probably about 70-30 protein to fat, maybe 60 to weight, something like that. But I probably just have about a kilo of good quality red meat every day. Water, coffee, no vegetables, some eggs, some dairy. I feel fantastic. I was mainly doing it because of gut disease.
Yeah.
So kind of an elimination thing. I just felt so good doing it. I've stuck to it for about a year now. But yeah, I have a lot of protein. I feel great.
Do you know, have you tested your blood? Do you know if you're in ketosis, or have you done anything else to?
Yes, I've done 2 3 tests in the last year. I measured my ketones. Obviously, so I've been in ketosis. I mean, I literally have 0 carbs, pretty much. In eggs, like egg whites, that's probably it. And cheese, some some cheddar. So yeah, I think I'm probably in ketosis most of the time. And I do cycle, so maybe on a Sunday I'll have a cheat day. Maybe, I don't know, just load up with some veg or something like that. Yeah, I feel great.
Great. So that, that's I guess a vote for high protein doesn't matter so much.
And I think the quality of the meat makes a big difference as well, because at the beginning of the year I started with cheaper stuff, and it was kind of a rough transition. But I've started getting grass-fed, pasture-fed stuff now, and mixing it up between lean meat and fatty meat. Yeah, I feel really good.
Yeah, I think one of the things that kind of confounds us is that you get given 2 pieces of meat and you eat them, and maybe people will say they're the same, but one's corn-fed, one's pasture-fed, or whatever, and you put them in different studies, and maybe you get different results, and it just confuses everyone because everyone's like, isn't that just a piece of meat? So one of my thoughts is that we're going to get into the details eventually, and we're going to find out all of this stuff is quite different. I test my red blood cell fatty acid profile, which I find quite useful because you can find, based on what you've been eating, that the fats in your cells have changed quite significantly. So that can give you an idea of what the content of your meat or whatever that you're eating is, because often the fatty acids are part of the change in that meat. So if you have a corn-fed one, the fat's going to be different. If you have a grass-fed one, the fat's going to be different. So that's one interesting thing.
Yeah, on the carnivore thing, I've tried it myself, but the mistake I made was low quality meat. But a friend of mine's been keto for decades, and he went carnivore a couple of years ago, and he swears by it. But he says he does notice the difference between like cheap meat and high quality meat. So he only shops at I think it's Ginger Pig, but he gets like the fat cuts as well, and he eats the fat raw, his first meal is always organ meat, so liver, brain, heart, whatever, and then if he's still hungry, then he'll go for the meat. But he's loads of animal fat, tons of animal fat, and he goes through ghee as well, by the way. That was going to come. That was going to come. So,
Put ghee in every sentence.
Yes. Drink the stuff. Drink the stuff.
Hey, I just want to share what I'm doing with everyone in case it's interesting for you. I did 2 months on keto, like kind of standard keto, and now I've done 2 months on carnivore, but specifically the protocol from Paleomedicina. Maybe some people have heard of Paleomedicina. They're really doing groundbreaking research, publishing studies. They're using what's called the Paleolithic ketogenic diet, and it's reversing MS, type 2 diabetes, everything. Incredible results, and very specific differences from the ketogenic diet. Personally, I could say all the health changes I had on keto were amplified by like 75% on carnivore, so I don't believe in measuring anything, like it's just not something I like to do. And so, but approximately you're meant to be eating 2/3 fat to protein, and so I'm eating lots of duck, lots of ribeye, some salmon, and some bacon, like if I can find just natural, and I've had a really good experience. So Paleomedicina, they're based out of Budapest, and check them out. You can find their research on ResearchGate.
Thank you. So we have at least 2 carnivores here. Anyone else carnivore?
There's a website, I think it's Zero Carb Zen, and they have a lot of testimonials on there. And one of the questions they have, the testimonials, is do you measure ketones? And the majority of them don't. But a lot of them do have ketogenic macros because they eat in high-fat meats. I have tried it. It didn't work for me. It worked as far as the way I felt, but it wasn't very palatable to me. I don't like meat that much by itself.
Right. Can I just ask, is there anyone here who has any knowledge about the genetic predisposition towards a carnivore diet or otherwise?
You need to.
Long ago, on a glacier far, far away, I got abandoned with a medic and 2 other guys for 3 months, and we ran out of food. And I guess that was the first time I went keto. I didn't realise it at the time because it was another decade until I was given a fatal prognosis for a disease I developed called epilepsy. And I was told that if I dared try this ketogenic approach, which had been used on kids, it couldn't possibly work for an adult. My research up till then had only been on paleontology and what was growing 10 to 20,000 years ago, and knowing sort of what roamed around a much colder Britain at the time. So, yeah, I can appreciate that there are going to be some different genetic variables, particularly in the way that we can digest things through cell walls and through, in particular, the stomach and intestine walls. That's where people are most interested at the moment. But anyway, here I am. Shall I do the trick I did on the doctors? Because I'm about to do it tomorrow as well. They're going to stick me on their fitness testing equipment. Do I look dead to you? At the age of 52, when they continually say I'm going to die. Fine, I'll die my way. Was the reply I gave them. Dying? Oh, I was going to have seizures continually and go into stasis. And another wonderful word, a bit like taking their pills, called Tegretol retard, and worse. And the pills didn't work. So genetically, there's going to be some people that don't respond to the epilepsy pills. There may even be a few that have got it built into their mitochondria, like tiny little things that make energy, that can use fat for fuel, particularly in this part of your body. And so long as that stays alive, as long as you've got survival nets that have been given to us from about 10 to 20,000 years ago, then you'll do it. And hopefully you'll not have to go through some of the death threats that I've had. And you've had, come on. And I haven't had to sort of suffer particularly because I'm afraid the side effects to the pills I was given went back through evolutionary time, starting with grains and wheat, and then dairy, and then nightshade veg, which is tomatoes, potatoes, all sorts of business. I was running out of food I could eat. I was going back through time in terms of what I couldn't eat. So I can understand how a carnivore approach would be beneficial if you had reached that stage of going back through time. So please, don't let the sort of the concerns as to whether you could go vegan or whether you should stay just being carnivore, don't let that disturb you, because you can get it to fine-tune just for you, so it will work. You can stick with her for over a decade. All right? So good for you. Keep going. Do you want to sing back?
Thank you, Mike. I actually saw Mike first at a conference in the US where he was talking, Metabolic Health Summit, which is run by Dominic D'Agostino and some other scientists in Florida. Mike was actually one of the first persons to work with Dominic D'Agostino with his condition to try and use the ketogenic diet to work with his specific type of epilepsy. So, all right, great. So, you know, like I said, we had more questions than anything, and you guys have got more questions about protein than anything. I don't know if you guys would like to do a Keto London experiment with protein sometime? Votes, yes, no? You know, we are just always thinking of ideas of what would be useful to people, so feel free to send them to Erin. Erin is the Keto London head honcho, whatever you call it. So anything you'd like from this community, or anything you'd like organized, a specific topic tackled, just ask her, throw the ideas her way, and she'll probably make it happen. So I'm going to let you guys mingle now. What we're going to do is we're going to collect the final set of data here. So I'm going to yell in a second, everyone run over there and get your blood tested. And then once we put all of that into spreadsheets and stuff, we'll do a quick summary of what we've seen. And you know, hopefully we'll learn something. And then we'll do a quick vote on those true or falses and see if anyone changed. But for now, mingle. Like, all of us are into keto for different reasons. So, you know, I know everyone I talk to has a different reason for starting it. If you want to be injured to anyone in specific, you know, ask either Elliot, Matt, or Erin. They know quite a few people here. They might know someone who's got your specific goal or something like that. I'll talk to you guys soon.
Yeah, no, it's all right.
Yeah, that's stable. Instead of going to the third ice cream in the morning.
It's usually carbs. I use all my carbs.
Yeah, so you were talking in the background there. Hey, Facebook Live guys. What was I talking about?
Talking about inflammation, labs.
Right, so some of the labs I get. So the point is that there's maybe 100 labs. So inflammation is specific. Kind of like all the stuff we've been talking about, it's specific. It's not the same for everyone. You can have different inflammatory processes going on in your body. So the answer is I don't know if the keto diet will help you.
My type of inflammation.
No, I don't know because I don't know what you have specifically. I don't know what Mark said. If you had the same as me, I can say yeah. But mine is so unusual that I have C4A, TPF-beta-1, so like, yeah, exactly. They don't mean anything to anyone. So that's not going to be helpful. So I think you just have to test it. Most people I just tell them, like test it for a month, get into that deep ketosis, or you can like basically hack it, right? So there are things called ketone salts or ketone esters and C8 MCT. These things increase your ketones.
I have tried MCT oil in the bulletproof coffee.
Right.
So that just
So what I tell people to do is get a high dose of those. Like basically just get your blood ketones up. Doesn't matter how, to test how you feel, right? And keep a diary, and then you can see if it's making a difference. I do this also with anyone who's interested in cognitive decline or anything like that. So frankly, I don't know. There's a lot of good research coming out now that says it can be helpful, but who knows if it applies to everyone. So do yourself a favor, jack your ketones up to 3 millimolar, test it with your blood, keep a diary, put them back down to 0 by eating carbs, do that another day, play around with it and see what works for you. Frankly, there's no answer. But there's people researching the mechanisms and everything's there. It's not like a mirage, it's not just anecdotal. There are mechanisms in the body showing that beta-hydroxybutyrate is anti-inflammatory. It suppresses, it inhibits some of those inflammatory.
Well, honestly, it's helping epilepsy sufferers. It's going to bring. That's one type of inflammation.
I don't think they really know why. Right?
No, it's all very.
So it's a bit of an experiment, but the encouraging thing is there's a ton of research. Every time I go to a scientific conference, we're going to the main one, the Metabolic Health Summit again in January. There's twice as many people, and there's twice as many scientists trying to apply ketones to a new area. Like last time, there was a guy looking at gout. I was like, yeah, interesting. And he was getting success with it. Right? Now there's anti-aging guys looking at the anti-aging mechanisms. I'm like, all right, that's motivating me to stay on my ketones diet, right? So scientific conferences are great. I recommend everyone should go there. They're trying to make it more consumer friendly also. So, I think if you're really interested in it, it can do you a good favor. It's worth going to the quality sources because there's so much information about keto now on the internet. A lot of it's not well informed. It's a problem. And so you just go to the scientists, and then they know this, so they're trying to put out the right message. Because in a way, if the wrong message gets out, it can sabotage their research. Because then the media and everything starts going against it. It's like, someone said that ketones are magic. And they're not, and it goes to all this bad press, right? And the scientists are like, oh man, I didn't say that, right?
No.
I didn't do any research on it, I didn't say that.
It reminds you
and
about
now you're putting a bad vibe.
The recent thing about coconut oil being bad for you. Remember the AHA just did a big thing in India when mad coconut oil is bad for you. It's the same sort of thing. They get their own end of the stick, and it's like everybody's on coconut oil. So why would you be on coconut oil? It's used for thousands of years therapeutically.
Yeah.
And people consume it with great results.
Yeah, well, there's a new headline that comes out every week, right? And basically, it's a waste of time reading the press. I'm sorry, if you want any information on keto diets or anything like that, you really have to read the science, or at least, the scientists now do presentations, at conferences, and often they're quite easily understandable. I think the scientists are aware that they have to make this stuff understandable. So a lot of the ones on YouTube and stuff like that, they're perfectly watchable, and it doesn't get overly technical, and so you can take some real value from it.
That's what I want. I'm on fat, so I want to be burning fat. I want to be when I need it, I want to use it.
You know where it lies.
what a benefit
Yeah, it's something we might deal with Elliot.
Exactly, so that's what we say. So when we look at this, and this is where it comes in gerontonics, the way that you lead up to CKD, a lot of people go, eat like banana labs and training, so don't keep this out of ketosis training, so go into everything after the meeting, like
or I want to listen to it,
and then post that.
So you can get a lab panel, it's not nuclear magnetic resonance like profile.
As in the large
Hugely insist.
Yeah, that's the one that's going to happen.
No, we don't do it. There's only 2 labs in the US to do that, so we get that sort of large percentage over there. Yeah, so we've been doing that, and I think if you're concerned,
I know the ones. I get the same ones you could look at.
It's which one?
There's a couple of things that just make praise.
You have an LPA. Yours is high. Right, so that's genetic. Right, so you only get that once, and now you can sort of right below the So actually that's I would think like LPA is high. That's genetic to out and possibly modify it.
Yeah, I mean, I get that thing where you're
wow, good.
You're just like,
Yes, excellent.
So, but that's what you do actually for.
So what did he do?
He said,
so Matt, what's the chronic test? Right, because I'm quite interested in this.
The NHS cardiologist.
Of course. So what did he say?
I went to, well, he looked at Dave at the time, and he was having done.
Mine are not issues, but mine were just interesting findings, which I find contrary to LDL.
The LDL now is
5. My LDL particles used to be like, and just recently I got tested and it's 2,000, right? So I'm now looking into that. I don't think it's really, it could be something to do with the way I've changed my diet, but like it's a lot of things that have been going on. So I'm currently troubleshooting, right, to lower that back down. But I never worried about the LDL because I used to have high LDL, they're low particles. So I don't have the LDA thing. So for me, and I have a lot of information. So for me, I manage it. I'm very comfortable. So I just, when I'm very confident, I get the life profile. And now that I've got my costing, I'm going to figure out the package. I'm already doing my deal with hacks. I'll just keep on doing that. So that, for me, might be the next step. I can keep the look into the LPA more in detail. Have you heard of people? So he talks a lot about the LPA.
I've got an answer for that too, but it's very big.
So he's got 3 or 4 episodes interview with Thomas Bateman,
Okay, so truthfully, you're not going to get
learn a lot from LPA.
One key thing that
he can tell, but I think that would be worthwhile.
I mean, it's getting hard. I looked at it before.
That's how I think this week. The reason for that is after these 6.5 days,
but it seems
like do a heavy sensory, but then failure. No. Okay, so that's
however, high particle by so the way I look at it is like
sucking everything in, and it's that
I got a calcium as well. But actually, if you look into it, that's necessarily like everybody's story. So I don't trust that. It's nice to get everything.
So when I see they haven't said that HRV really nice and super everything, I get so look at it. But I'm guessing your body just goes like this.
I mean, it's going to get the particle size done.
It's not expensive, you know. It's just the particle size of the tank, like 110.
Different.
It's not. But it's come down in price. You can do it for us or anyone else. We use a lab called Vivo. So basically, anyone who works with That's right. You're already working. He's actually the best cardiologist I know in the UK. Oh, how much is he per session? That is a little bit, you know, I've had consultants, so I do like consulting guys in the US.
When I look at it, so carb load drop Monday,
you know, so you might want to look for one of the best guys. 90% I always find the best time to market more than I want in there. We're trying to build up a network. Like, you know, we kind of say, hey, like you should go and see a Malhotra because he knows what he's doing. So we're trying to build that list and stuff. So we can talk to Shimmy, he and I grow.
I mean, I'm sure he's not getting an extra PPM just because you guys use the results.
Yes, they can really play there.
That was obviously where and that was via some costs in place, some but it's surprising that
but this is what's interesting. So you use the options so I'm getting crazy really.
I think it's actually like well, that's true. You can see the NHS stresses obviously. So I think the reason those stresses red horses they are massive it's not something everyone wants to do. You know, you're going against your rain. So I think that
if I have
like us personally, we kind of everybody's going PTM these sort of interventions being found in case studies lower end. So we don't have any medical advice or anything. We just try to gain basically. That's what we're taking it and getting sent out the way. Don't chat about tell them about your LPA. Go ahead, yeah.
This lady has been waiting to talk to you.
this is how it generally that's how I beat cancer on Monday. There we go. Sunday. I think the best is Sunday night. Meeting races these 12 hours. Well, in the UK, it's fine.
You are not too packed.
So in the US, it's training. It's like 5, I haven't
it's helped me personally, it helps me to stay happy. Whenever I have a
Is it it? Keto. So in general, like
Go and have a read.
Anything over 0.5 is keto. Anything 1.5 to 3 is anything over 0.5 means keto. Anything under 0.5 is not anything under 0.5 is still contains protein. It's not really heavy. When you sleep,
sorry, I don't have a science. Oh yeah, so for me, it's really different. I read about this. And then they make it taste. I started trying to lose it, and I did. Now I try to keep it, so
The reason is we're supposed to be entertaining these people on here.
Oh, definitely not. So I lost 25 pounds after 6 months, and then I kind of like keeping it, not trying to lose more. So I'm doing low carb, low 100 grams of carbohydrate. So I'm trying to do that. That's fine by me. I can do it. So this is my first time coming with here. It's not okay. But then
Well, you know, I'm sure it's not like it. It's good feedback. It's good feedback. I guess one of the problems is the group has been going for, the group's been going for a year and a half. So we do different topics. And
right. Is it always?
But it's good feedback. I should try and dumb it down no matter what. No, I mean, not dumb it down. But you know what I mean? Just make it simple. If it's technical, it's bad. Right?
Because I don't have a science background, I don't know
Most people
about
don't.
nutrition.
The problem is when you've been in it for so long, sometimes you lose sight and you're talking about stuff and you have no idea that it's geek. And that's where I'm currently at. So I have to try and think, okay, that's probably geek.
And then actually I come here just to find out, how many people do this kind of living or in London. Because I find it very rare to actually bump into people who actually do all my friends, I come from Hong Kong, so I spend half of my time in Hong Kong. Very few people out there know about it. I thought that there would be more in the UK. I think it's still true compared to Hong Kong, but then still I don't find many people here doing that. So I was actually quite curious to see what you guys have been doing. Where do people get their food? For example, what I do, I love cooking and baking, so I tend to cook from scratch myself every day. I even bake bread and stuff like that. Keto version. I love doing it. But I was wondering where people get their food.
Salmon, loads of veg.
Okay, quick announcement. Anyone who hasn't had their blood tested and needs to, please rush over to see Erin right now in the little corner. Thank you.
Maybe 3 items that you can see from there, the entire kind of coffee shop. So I was wondering where people get the food. I mean, not a lot of people, I don't think most people can scratch every day. So for example, where do you get the food?
world of
I don't know the sound of the mountain. I know you put it back in. I can't do it one hand.
I believe that it is. I choose
Or you can have it.
Anyway, she did do it for some just to be nice.
If you can hold the iPad straight,
I need it to be caffeine free.
But they solicited some volunteers
actually, slide it down a bit.
to come.
I saw that.
So this is just getting tested. But somebody misunderstood and was just wanting themselves to. And she was very. She was also gracious about me, who thought I would be.
Right.
Or anywhere else, but I know that they live in MS, so another website you can get.
That's one.
Put your keto, mate. Put your keto.
Facebook. We live? Sweet. We're going to find someone to bring over. Any recommendations, Murdo?
Damien's done Q&As in the past.
Right. One more way.
Literally, my first day back to work is straight. Literally, it's not even, I'm going to see you in the office. It's alright, I was like,
People are too shy to come over, guys.
You too.
Yeah, me too, me too. No veggie. Wait, what?
It's
I think you just need to find a way that's
that's what I'm getting out
I tried for 2 weeks. Yeah, I know. I don't hate it. I can't take it, but I just do it every day. But that's how a lot of people started.
I've had so many different ways of it feels like the worst thing about this. What's your
The bulletproof coffee is to hit you into ketosis, especially with CA promotes the conversion of fats into energy. Like CA. And it's the best.
You can buy it in the market. Yeah, MCT. Is it the same?
No, it's just separated so there's a special medium chain triglycerides and coconut so you can separate it out quite easily from the rest of the well, you've got NCT, which is medium chain triglycerides, 8 to 12 fatty acids.
You can buy it in supermarkets?
No,
Amazon.
You know, follow the directions because if you take too much, you'll bring diarrhea. Particularly if you body has to adapt. Yes, yeah. So 8 to 12. 8 is a medium.
So you use the same amount?
How do you use everything? How is it? I'm trying to picture it. It's a liquid oil. And you just teaspoon in your coffee, blender or not. I mean, blending emulsifies it, makes it more vibrant. On a salad.
It doesn't stand high heat.
It's expensive if you get a drizzle.
I was going to say, don't you think the way of cooking is quite clever in general? All the ingredients you're trying to go for whole food, organic. Sorry? Oh, okay.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, I see. So you use the wild salmon.
It's reduced then. You know.
Oh, it's like wild I think salmon is more common than and if it's discounted, for example, maybe I go to the organic or the fast.
you make it up from the yeah. Yeah, I know what you mean. Learn about it. So, based on that, I guess I could water bottle. That's all about it. You drank the whole thing.
Yes, over 5.
In terms of,
Are they not converted?
well, one.
You don't like to cook very often. I think it's quite difficult. You have to eat out all the
Got to check this out.
Yeah, probably is.
Cauliflower.
You can actually turn cauliflower into
Cauliflower flour exists. Cauliflower foods. There we go. Healthy cauliflower picking it from.
probably.
Had to look. Right? Had to look. Had to see.
I was least expecting it. Yeah.
I see we can next go up. I see we can next go down. Oh, never say can't.
So bad.
What you were saying about
Just a heads up, guys, we're going to have results in about 5 minutes. Make them report.
Hey guys, we're just about to go through review of the data now.
Reactivation. Hey, Facebook Live. Reactivation.
Hi, Facebook Live. Are we still living?
Yes, it is live there.
Oh, we are going to get the results soon. Quite a few people have left us this evening. There are a few empty chairs.
I'm just going to finish a little bit of handout.
We are handing out. This is the reason you guys need to come to all the meetings, because you get free ketone bars.
I already ate
And there's a whole box of them to raise your ketones. So
mine was tasty.
Murdo is not yet ketogenic, but we shall convert him.
Hey, if you take my blood right now, I'm sure I'm at like 7.3 ketones.
Murdo thinks that his ketone levels are at 7.3. If we hadn't run out of ketone strips, I would test that.
It's probably
You did?
entire.
Yeah, interesting.
I feel dizzy, but that was just because I've been standing all day and I've had water.
Yeah, maybe that's true.
It's probably that.
So, how do you like the taste of these?
I like them because it's like it's not too it's not too dense. It's not too crumbly. You know? It's like it's got the right density to it.
Yeah.
It's not it doesn't just drop everywhere. Keep losing his foot.
So I've been stealing the keto bars.
So have I. I've had one. I decided not to have two.
Yeah. So don't eat them all in one go, even though they are delicious, because they have MCT oil in them, and too much MCT oil will make you not well. So it's a good job you didn't have two. All right. I'm excited to see these results.
So am I. With all the graphs that I made the graphs entirely myself. Just did mine.
So Murdo is the one that we make to do all the charts, because I'm really bad at Excel and he's very good at Excel. I'm better on the people
I'm good
side.
at pretending to be good at Excel. Just quickly open a new tab, Google what's broken, what fixes.
Yeah. So our charts are looking good. We're going to put them up on the presenter now, see what the deal is. General consensus is that the grenade bars raised glucose and dropped ketones. The Keto Nature's Plus bar, keto bar, the yellow wrapper one, raised glucose, dropped ketones most likely. And then we might see something different with the Keto Source keto bars. We're expecting it to raise ketones and lower glucose. Yeah, what am I doing with this?
You're going to chase people and give it to them.
Is it on?
Yeah, so technical instructions.
I'm going to have a lesson on how to use the mic.
So basically, this little light here goes on when you press the little red button below and you hold it, and it goes on.
Sorry, do that now.
Yep. And then when you talk, everyone in the room can hear you.
Hello. Ooh.
So everyone heard Erin there too.
If only I could put this up here and you guys could talk.
Some results to share with you.
Can you be in charge?
Yep, I am.
And it's been an absolute disaster of an experiment.
Hey guys, I'm going to turn this around to the real world.
So we're going to see what it looks like. Hopefully this will be fun and educational. Who knows? So the idea is ask as many questions as is feasible so that you learn something from this. And it all makes sense to you. Erin has the microphone. She's the microphone queen. So just wave to her and she'll bring it over to you. Here we go. So I have been told by one person we're a little bit technical. So I do apologize for that. If you are finding the chat a little bit technical, please just ask a question, because we all like asking silly questions. Don't we, Erin? No? All right.
Also, if it helps, guys, I'm really bad at charts. So if you have a question about the chart, I probably have it too.
I've been trying to train Erin with charts for about a year. And I've smashed my head against the wall a few times already.
I'm more of a people person.
That's true. Erin is very good at people, which is why she's involved in communities and whatnot. Okay, I thought this would be the most interesting chart, so it's the one that goes first. Blood glucose change. So when you eat this thing, did it change your blood glucose? Did it go up? And this is in millimolar, so it's in English language this time. Or did it go down? And so we have the people's names there. So anyone who has their name up there and is interested, has something to say about their results, go.
I don't know if I dare say this, but that tells me my blood glucose went up after having a keto
for everyone for you?
I'm purple.
Purple mark.
So is that telling me I went up by 1 millimolar of my blood glucose?
At the end of 2 hours, yes.
Oh, at the end of 2 hours, right. And at the end of 1 hour, possibly slightly down.
So I'm not explaining properly again. My fault. So 0 before eating, 60, 1 hour, we tested them here, and then we tested them here again here. So 1 hour, 2 hour. Now typically you would want to do that over 3 hours because normally there'll be a 3 hour response. But we didn't have time to do that, so we just did it for 2 hours to just see what it would do. And as you can see, most of the curves have done something and then gone back to baseline or going towards baseline. So it's capturing most of the effect.
So I'm a little bit concerned that mine's gone up until
Yeah, I mean, there we go. Jeff should not eat any keto source ketone bars. They sabotage him after 2 hours. After 2 hours, he gets a glucose spike.
It's 1 hour.
I think that's 1 hour.
1 hour.
No, it wasn't a keto source product.
It's 2 hours.
It was the yellow one.
0, 60, 120 minutes.
Okay, but the peak is after 60, right?
His peak, he's purple. Purple mark. Purple mark.
I thought Jeff was orange or yellow. Jeff's yellow, isn't he?
Yes, but we're talking to Mark.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And Mark is purple.
I thought we were on Jeff. Apologies.
Jeff, where are you? Do you want to talk? Because everyone's talking about you.
You are.
I had the yellow one, and I felt woozy, I felt drunk, giddy, very thirsty, and bloated. So thanks for that. And he's off the other
So Jeff, I'm sorry about that experience. We delivered to you. We did tell you, as with any experiment, there may be side effects.
All in the name of science.
And we had 2.
Well, we'll get into it. I mean, like, maybe he's got some ideas. I mean, I think this first part with individuals, like, be interesting to see if they've got anything. Afterwards, we'll look at the averages of the different bars. They all add different bars and stuff, so.
So I get the star, and I'm thinking I might get it because I was exercising fairly hard before. I'm Diane, the turquoisey one. Yes.
Diane Turquoise with the star on it.
And maybe that's because I was exercising quite hard before I came. But I wanted to ask Murdo something, because my blood glucose went down twice. But why does it look like it's going up? What does
Murdo, this is a question for you. Here's Murdo.
Hi, I'm Murdo and I have no idea.
Why are we asking Murdo this specific keto question? Or is it Matt?
I don't understand the graph.
Oh, I think you may wanted to talk to Matt because he's a sports scientist. Is that why? No?
I can do it though.
Erin's going to talk about it.
So glucose was quite high, up at about 7. And then she had the grenade, 6.5. Then had the grenade bar, which we would expect to bring glucose up and ketones down. But then over the 2-hour period, her glucose came down for an hour and then down for the 2-hour point. So I think Diane's question is, why does the graph go like this for her rather than all the way down? I said, with my limited chart knowledge, that it might be something to do with the relative change rather than her specific change.
That's correct.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
Can we explain what relative change is?
Sure.
So why does it go back up if my measurement?
Does everyone understand relative change? Who doesn't? Hands up. Oh, you guys should have told me earlier.
Sure. Do you want to do relative change?
You explain relative change. No? All right. Absolute glucose is your actual millimolar number, right? So, it could be 5, 4. When you check your meter, it's going to have that value on it. Relative change, when we're on a ketogenic diet, we eat a food, we don't want our blood glucose to go up too far. So, because if it does, it will lower our ketones and it could kick us out of ketosis, right? That's what everyone says. So basically what we've done is, say your value was 4 on the meter, and then it changed over 1 hour to 5, then on this chart it would be 1, because you've increased by 1, because we only really care about the change. And we do that because also people are different, and they have different steady levels of blood glucose depending on where they are. So it's actually more interesting, well, from one perspective, to look how you all start from 0, whatever your blood glucose baseline is, and see how you react to a food. Does it? I'm going to take a step back. First of all, does everyone understand the difference between relative and absolute? Relative and the value on the meter. Anyone not? Yeah, sure. So when you take a blood glucose meter, it will give you your blood glucose level, right? So 5, 4.5, something like that, right? And you're normally shooting for something, right? You want a good level. You don't want 7, 8. Or something like that, because that would be higher and it would go pre-diabetic. But when you eat a food, basically the response you have to that is based on where you started from. So you're only interested in the change. So what we did is we set you all to 0, no matter where you started. So if Diane started at 6, we put her at 0. If you started at 4, we put you at 0. And then if you increased by 1, we gave you a 1. And if you increase by 2, we give you a 2. So you can just see how your blood glucose changed rather than the actual level. Does that make sense?
So after the first reading, I went down more. My glucose went down more, and I don't understand. I think it's maybe a mistake that it shows it going back up.
Yeah, well, we'll talk about that in a second. I just realized that I kind of blew this whole thing by not telling you what the experiment was. It's a bit of a hectic night.
I was just checking the data to make sure I put it in correctly.
And Aaron's whispering in the microphone, which doesn't come off as a whisper. So this is the actual things people ate, right? So what we did is we had, how many people did we have?
10 people altogether, but 9 managed.
Okay. So we had 9 people, which is what we wanted. We wanted 3 people with each bar randomly. They took 1 bar. These are the nutrition facts you see for these bars. They're slightly different. We can dig into that a little bit later. But basically, these are very popular bars. The Grenade Carb Killer is possibly the most popular bar in the UK. And it's carb killer because it's low carb, it's high protein. So you'll see that in Holland & Barrett takes up about 10 meters of floor space there. So people love those things. Keto Slim is now called Keto Bar. They've just rebranded it. And that is bright yellow, so everyone sees it when they walk into Whole Foods, Holland & Barrett. It's not in Holland & Barrett, it's in most of the health stores. So that, I'm told, is very, very popular, because I talk to the people in health retail. So this is really killing it at the moment. I don't know if it's yellow or if it's keto or whatever reason. So these are very popular bars. And this is my new invention, which took me about 2 years, 22 months, and I was just trying to make something that I thought would be cool for people. There you go. Now this is the design. So basically, It actually took place from 3:30 to 7:30 when we took the last reading. Thank you. What we did is we had people eat the bars at 5:30. We had them eat 2 bars instead of 1. And we know it's not normal, but we wanted to make sure we saw some significant result. So you could half the result if you wanted to, and say if I had 1 bar, roughly it would do about half that. We just wanted to make sure it gave a clear signal, so we had everyone eat 2 bars. And we know that some people eat 2 bars as well. So it is a realistic scenario. It was just with 9 people. And we basically had them eat those 2 bars at 5:30, and some people probably didn't enjoy it because they're not used to eating 2 bars. Sorry about that. Then what we did, we had a blood meter, and the blood meter can test both glucose and ketones using different strips. And so we took our first reading at 5:30, and that was the baseline. That was that person's normal glucose level, ketone level, and everyone in the study was on a ketogenic diet. That's one of the things, the criteria we gave them, because you can't see a drop in ketones if you have 0 ketones, and we wanted to see the impact on ketones. So everyone was in a ketogenic diet. Then we did a reading 1 hour later at 6:30, and another one at 7:30. Yes?
Just wondering how long they've been fasting for before the trial started.
They cover that now. You're ahead of me. Yep. There you go. Good timing. So we said no food or drink 2 hours before starting the test. That's what we did. And did everyone obey that, by the way, or did someone cheat? Yeah. So we also had people fill in a questionnaire and tell us if they were cheating. So that if anything came up, we could be like, oh, this is why they got a funky result. They said this in their test. So they normally do that in experiments, just to control the variables. What else? What else happened? So we also said no exercise or strenuous physical activity because that will affect your ketones and your blood glucose, both of them. So apparently Diane did a lot of cycling, so that is a confounding factor. Well, there you go, so that kind of self-explanatory. And lifestyle factors known to bias response control. So basically, in this questionnaire we asked them about things like sleep and some other things we know that change your blood glucose and your ketone response just from history and from research and stuff like that. Does that make sense? So we asked them about basically sleep and sickness. I did a study earlier in the year with my ketone bar of about 38 people, and we got a statistically significant result from it, and it was basically that it raised ketones for everyone except people who were sleep deprived. They said they had bad sleep, or they were chronically ill, like they had an ongoing illness, or they had an acute illness, so they had flu or cold or whatever. And that was like statistically significant. We don't know exactly why. There's a lot of research around sleep, so that's kind of obvious there. I mean, I think that's really one takeaway, is like, if you're on a ketogenic diet, try and get some good sleep, because it makes a difference. Anyway, does everyone understand what we did? Any questions? Could you go to the next slide? Thank you. And the next one. Right, now we can fight about this one here. So who else we have? Alistair, do you want to make a comment?
Yes, I'm surprised my glucose went up. Because I don't know whether that's just a personal response to, because I thought your C8 bars wouldn't create any glucose response at all. So I was really surprised at that. But then it came down again. So I don't know whether. The only question mark I've got there is whether, are there any, not artificial, but is there any stevia or, is there anything in that mix that has a kind of sugar cognitive effect, but not a metabolic effect?
Right, so you went up by about 0.5, and then, right, this is you, right, this blue line. Yeah. Dark blue, Alistair.
And then came back down.
Right, so Erin, just to qualify, did you take 3 readings for the glucose, or how did it work?
I did 1 reading for glucose and 1 reading for...
Alright, so we have an experiment design problem. My understanding was we're taking 3 readings for each. Does anyone remember what I said about glucose readings earlier? Yeah, unfortunately, the glucose meter can be out by quite a bit. Sorry, this is actually a bit of miscommunication. Anyway.
There were 3 readings, weren't there?
There was a glucose reading and a ketones reading.
Yeah, 3 times, at the beginning, the middle, and the end.
Maybe it means 3 glucose readings every single time.
In order to get an accurate result with a glucose meter, you need to often take 3 readings at the same time, 3 separate strips, because it varies so much that it's the only way to do it. You get an average of that, and it gives you a reasonable number. So any test I do, I always do 3. Sometimes if I get 2 results and they're exactly the same, I don't need to do the 3rd one.
And how much variance have you seen within?
1 millimolar. 1 millimolar, yeah, it's quite big. So, you know, it could be that your glucose went up, could be that it didn't reach this flat line. Yeah, it could be. Unfortunately, we can't say for sure. Sorry about that. Anyway, there's a learning there. You know, this is what happens when you do live experiments. Anything else?
No, I'm interested in the ketone reading. I have a high ketone reading.
Aha, okay. Alright, well, let's go next. Anyone else who wants to talk about it? Who else participated? And who's got one of the higher results? We've got Jeff, we've got Paul.
I had the same bars as Jeff.
Oh, I see.
So obviously slightly not. It's the same shape, but obviously slightly lesser levels, but it has the same effect basically.
Could you?
Yeah.
So why don't you probably start?
Yeah, that might be why then. Yeah.
Are you Paul?
I'm Paul. Yeah. I've been on keto for a little while, whereas Jeff hasn't, so that might be why my rise isn't as big, but it's the same shape.
Okay, then Joe had a pretty... Oh, Joe's gone. So Joe's Mr. Key, by the way. Mr. Key got a glucose response. So, you know, some of these ones that are more out of the way, even though we didn't take 3 readings, they're showing a pattern. And I think also, if it's showing something similar, like Diane's is both lower, then, you know, maybe we didn't need to get 3 readings in order to get a reasonable idea of what was going on.
And also on the ketone side of things, when we get to the next one.
Yes. Anyone want to dig more into glucose, or should we move on to ketones?
One question on CGMs. How frequently do CGMs measure?
Okay, so CGMs, that's a good question, but they actually give you a lot of data points all the way through. It's a constant line. I'm not sure how often they measure, but I think it's quite frequently. I'd have to look, and it's probably not the same for each one. There's one in the UK which is Freestyle Libre, there's another one called Dexcom, and you know, they're probably different. The thing with CGMs is they actually give you a bigger swing. So they have problems as well. So a CGM will give you a constant measure, but basically if you go up by 1 millimolar, it might say 1.5. It swings more. If you go down by 1 millimolar, it might say 1.5, you went down. So whenever we test, we've actually had Aaron and Matt testing stuff, they've got a bigger swing from their CGM, and then when they take their blood glucose reading, it's slightly lower. And this is consistent. We see this all the time. So it could also be the Freestyle Libre, by the way, which some people say isn't as accurate because the Dexcom is more inexpensive, plus we haven't tested it. But the Freestyle Libre definitely has a bigger swing if you're going to use that. But it's still useful because you still want to know what spikes you and what doesn't. That helped. We're on the next one. Everyone's like digging into ketones and I'm just rambling. Okay, who's a ketone king here? Alistair, he kicked up to 1.5. Yeah. Well, so that kind of correlates a bit with your blood glucose, right? Your blood glucose went up a little bit, and your ketones went down. That makes sense. Yeah. So, like, I showed you a chart earlier with some fibers, with different responses by me, but I think people respond to fibers differently also, right? So, my biggest bet, if it's something in the bar, it would be the chicory root fiber that's affecting you, and you are digesting. So you can do this test. Eat stuff with chicory root fiber and see if it raises you more than others. But that would be my bet, that maybe you digest that differently. Well, he went up in ketones. He went. Oh no, when did you start? No, you started. No, sorry. I thought it was a relative graph. It's not. This is an absolute graph. Sorry to mix things up, guys. This one is absolute. This is the actual readings on the meter. No relative change here. So, who else we got? We got Mark in Perth.
Very hard to eat 2 bars. But the results speak for themselves. There you go. It's good. Yeah, it was one of the keto sauce bars. Or 2 of the keto.
Alright, so then we got some others that are tanking here. Unfortunately, it was Joe. What did Joe eat? Oh. Okay. And then the orange one, well, you had the same bar, which was?
The yellow one.
Yellow one. Was it the yellow bar? Which bar did you eat?
I had the yellow one, the keto bar.
Okay. And then who's the one at the bottom? So Anna, is Anna here? Yeah. But she was here, I think she had to go to work. So Anna is interesting because she wasn't in ketosis when she started, but she thought she was. So that's learning. And then, but you know, her ketones did raise with the bar. Which bar did she have? Alright, keto sauce bar. Okay. Anyone want to talk more about this? Anyone have anything to say about it?
Well, so there's only, well, thanks, Daniel. So there's only 3 that I can see that ketones actually raised. So Mark, Purple Mark, and Stephen picked up a bit, and then Anna did a bit of a boost. And everybody else didn't.
Yeah. What bars did they have?
Yeah, good.
Yeah,
exactly.
Actually, I had I'm Steve, and I had the keto sauce bar. My ketones actually raised actually 0.2, and then went down again to the same. Yeah, so I started off at 0.7, and had the keto sauce bar, went up to 0.9, and then went back down to 0.7 on the 3rd meeting. But I had been in a fasting state since yesterday morning. I don't know if that's significant or not.
So you want a 48? How long has it been? It's 24-hour fast.
About 27 hours, something like that. Yeah. But the ketones did raise with the C8, and then that was a ketone source bar.
I personally don't know the answer to it. I have seen, so the only thing I can add is that when I've done 5-day fasts or longer, the day I come off, my blood glucose spikes, no matter what I eat.
Okay.
So, but yours is a short fast, I don't know if it'd be the same.
Yeah, I just got the call yesterday saying that I was going to come here. I thought I'd fast and just because I thought it would just be a good thing to do.
So Anna in blue. Anyway, Anna in blue, Stephen in the red, Mark in the purple, and Alistair in the dark blue all have the keto source bars. Correct me if I'm wrong now, I'm going from memory. Paul Orange had the yellow keto slim, or what was known as the keto slim bar. Demetra in the weird greeny yellow colour had the grenade parka. Joe had the grenade parka, the dark green one there. And Jeff, as we know, here in the yellow, had the other yellow keto slim bar. Right down the road. And Diane had the grenade parka as well.
Ta-da. Any more questions? Or thoughts or anything? We've got more lovely charts to show you.
With the keto sauce bar, they're really nice. They're just a bit too sweet, I thought, though. And they would probably be better if they were like half the size, because
I've heard that before.
I felt satisfied after eating half of one, and eating the whole was a bit much. Eating 2 was obviously nice, but it was not too much. So half the size.
That's a nice way to put it.
Wait, you've eaten like tank loads of the stuff previously.
Yeah, we were guinea pigs.
Yeah, Mark was one of the first guinea pigs, and he used to eat like trays of this stuff. It was amazing. Yeah, but I understand it. That's actually a comment I get a lot. Some people just chop it in half, and you know, they have 1.5 a day. So here we go. All right. So what we got here? This is glucose change, and this is averaged per bar. So we stepped away from the individuals now, and we're taking the 3 people who had 1 bar. We averaged their change. So this is blood glucose. It actually looks like, you know, the worst one is the keto bar in terms of blood glucose increase, quite significantly, really. So you see that with the yellow one. I don't know if I would have expected that. I would have actually expected the carb killer to be the higher one, personally. So, any thoughts on that?
Just that if I'm in it, maybe that's one reason that the carb killer looks better than it would otherwise. Because
Yeah,
I was
biased the results. How could you sabotage the experiment?
You can take me out. You can take me out. We do it.
Yeah. That would be interesting. I don't know if you've got a second to remove Diane from...
Yeah, I'll take this. I'll let the
Murder is our
master
chief
do the charge.
sheet hacker.
And a sort of maybe more general question, but you mentioned that as glucose goes up, it can tend to push ketones down. Why is that?
Well, when glucose goes up, insulin goes up, and then your body stops creating ketones. That's simple, basic. Anyone got something better to say, more longer explanation?
Oh, that did change.
I thought that insulin pushes your ketones down. There was some mechanism that it uses that does that.
It inhibits fat oxidation, and so that by proxy will limit ketone production. So then, as glucose goes up, insulin's up, so ketones and fat oxidation is suppressed.
That's why I worry about protein. Because it's insulinogenic, so it pushes your insulin up when you have whey protein.
Do you know what it does to your glucose?
No idea.
That's the question. We were discussing this earlier. Because if it does push your insulin up, then because insulin should push your glucose down, because that's what insulin does. So I'm not seeing people take protein and go hypoglycemia. So that's something we're discussing. We're not really sure about.
Yeah,
that's our protein question.
Yeah, there's a mechanism of insulin. Like if a protein spikes insulin, maybe it would stop ketone production, right? But he's saying that it didn't lower the glucose. So did the insulin spike, or is it having the same impact?
I'm sure.
It does. Protein spikes insulin,
but if you start mixing
but it doesn't necessarily push the glucose down.
No. But if you start mixing it with MCT oils and additional fats, you might get a different response, as in you'll suppress the insulin.
And the type of protein?
Yeah.
With the protein? Is that what
Guys got theories? No?
Fine. Well, we're just saying future test.
Yeah. So I think the
straight
protein
thing and then protein.
Hi guys.
Just saying the option of a future test to see if straight whey protein versus whey protein with MCT oil or heavy whipping cream or anything else, and seeing what the insulin response is like, as well as ketone production or drop.
Yeah. So you're saying how you combine things makes a difference.
It's the combination. So if I was to have, if I was in a ketogenic state and I decided to have just plain eggs, it's going to have a higher amount of lysine. It's going to spike my insulin level. But if I cook them with butter and put some cheese in there, it's going to give me a different insulin response. It's going to suppress it to a certain degree.
Same with carbs. You can have carbs and have a lot of fat with it, and you won't be kicked up.
Exactly. So what we're saying is, combinations of food and food types are going to elicit different insulin response, and then obviously that will have a different effect on your ketone levels if you're kicked out and how quickly you put back in.
I've tried whey by itself with MCT oil or MCT powder, and I still have a similar reaction. But I mean, most of the ketos individual, so I know for me I can't really use it.
So combining with MCT is interesting because MCTs get converted into ketones, So that's actually kind of like an exogenous source. It's not, so it shouldn't really, basically, if you think adding them together, right? So if you block your ketone production, you still might get a little bump in ketones if you're taking MCT or C8.
You want to dump some heavy whipping cream, something slow digesting.
Right.
So
that's another topic, right?
So yeah, in regards to sort of the insulin response, what you want to do is you want to put a slow-acting fat in there, something like heavy whipping cream. It will be slow and it will just slow down the release of the insulin.
But with MCTs you can kind of mask the effect.
You
With
can.
MCTs, like you said, they're ketogenic, so you can have carbs or whatever, and then you have MCT with it, your ketones will go up.
Yes.
So, but that's like a sort of fake ketosis kind of thing.
Yeah.
Temporary transient.
I have tried it with the heavy cream too.
What was the response?
I think I'm sluggishness and I get very hungry, like like I've dropped out of ketosis. Later in the day I eat more, like I'm hungrier for some reason. And I get really sluggish 2 or 3 hours later.
Do you have that in the morning?
Yeah, if I have the first
Yeah, that makes it a bit worse.
Pardon?
That makes it a bit worse, the effect.
So when you say sluggish, because you bring that, you say sluggish a lot about things. Is that like an inflammatory response to it, or is that because you're getting kicked out of ketosis and normally you feel better in ketosis? So I was just wondering, because you keep saying sluggish, I was wondering if it's a reaction to foods or it's a ketone metabolism thing.
When I say sluggish, I mean that feeling you get when you've been kicked out of ketosis, like you're not processing as quickly. Body feels heavier. It's not the same feeling.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, so on this topic, I did an experiment a couple of years back with the fats. I added, everyone likes green smoothies, right? It's pretty popular. So I had this idea, I was like, oh, I'm going to have green smoothies with all this good vegetable stuff. But I want to stay in ketosis, so I'm going to add fats, and I'm going to add C8-MCT oil into it, and that should be ketogenic. But, when I did the experiment, you blend up everything all together, spiked my glucose, and dropped my ketones. And the takeaway I had from that, and we've kind of seen it with a lot of people since, liquid calories. Liquid foods, they rush into your stomach, so Mark was just saying that fats help to slow down your digestion. But if you blend stuff, if you liquefy it, that actually does the opposite. That makes it really, really easy to digest. That's why we do it for babies, with baby food. So I don't think baby food is ketogenic.
Sorry, and the fiber's been taken out, and the fiber structure's changed, so obviously it's going to be absorbed extremely quickly.
Yeah, because you've broken it down.
But did you pop back into ketosis really quickly? Or did it take you up for a long time?
I went down, like I'm normally at 3 millimolar or something, so it's actually on YouTube somewhere, this thing. But it goes down and then I go back up at the end, but I had C8 as well, so I threw some of that in, which would have, so I didn't go below 1, I don't think, but I went down quite far, like maybe 2 millimolar. But it would be different for others. Alright, so where are we? Average response by bar. Did we manage to hack this, or?
So that's half hacked, don't worry about it too much.
No? You can't get Diane out? Or?
I managed to get Diane out, but it still looks still weird.
Yeah, because it hasn't been updated. So maybe.
I think you
it
did
has? Alright then. We'll call that a live experiment bug or something. Where are we? So this was the ketones. So we just looked at the glucose. Now we have the ketones, and the carb killer and the keto bar are kind of similar, and what they did to the level of the ketones. So it's interesting. I mean, a lot of people, on average, the person was just above 0.5. So that would say to me that most of the people that did this experiment were on a moderate ketogenic diet, not a rigorous one. So a rigorous one would give you higher values, like 2 or 3. But actually, if you look at a lot of the weight loss studies, people have ketones of about 0.5. That's actually the average. If you're interested in it, there's a company website called Verta Health, where they publish all this stuff. They've got a lot of people going through their programs to reverse diabetes, and they publish all the stats on ketone values, weight loss, stuff like that. So you'll see 0.5 is where they typically are. Anyone have got anything to say about this slide?
Fixed it.
The average is Finney's definition of nutritional ketosis was 0.5.
Yeah.
So we're saying
So he says from 0.5 upwards, he considers you to be in nutritional ketosis. I think in the weight loss studies, sometimes you see 0.4. Even. It's an arbitrary number, but 0.5 is quite low, right? But if you're looking for performance or therapeutic, we say you should aim for over 1.5 at least, right? Different level of ketosis. I don't know if people got thoughts on that. I'm kind of confused which graph we're on. Oh, have you changed it?
Yeah, it's changed.
Yeah, this is it changed.
Okay, we fixed it. We've removed Diane. So, you see the carb killers and the keto bars are more similar now without Diane, and we don't know why Diane is different. Could be the exercise, could be some other reason.
There's more base hydroxy in the ketone bars than the other two bars.
The bars should only, when I do the calculations, raise you by 0.25 or something like that, but for some people you get higher responses with the bars than you would just a straight oil in the same dose. So, I don't know. They don't have anything, they're just low carb, high protein. Well, they have some fats, they have different carbs. I mean, we'll have a look quickly at what the other bars contain.
The carb killer and the keto bar, the yellow one, have about 7 or 8 grams of fat in them compared to the
Do we have a chart?
keto bar.
I think it's lost. Every time has to go on. Just my nutritionist. Didn't follow
So these are the macros. This is the nutrition facts for these 3 bars. So there's a clear fat difference. There's a clear protein difference, which you guess by the fact that the companies are saying different things. High protein in this case per bar is like 20 grams. The interest, like most of them have. Who knows what a polyol is? Who wants to explain a polyol?
It's a sugar alcohol.
There you go, someone step forward.
No.
You don't want to talk? You started, it's too late.
It's used as a sweetener, it's a sugar alcohol. That's what it's called in chemical terms. Xylitol, yes, that's one of the good ones. There are different types, different chemical structures that affect how they're absorbed by the gut and whether they spike your insulin or not. Most of them are natural, but there are some artificial ones as well. I think there's 1 or 2 that are artificial. Can't remember the names.
So the common ones are xylitol. She's probably the most common one.
Yeah.
Did you know it kills dogs? I don't know. It's terrible.
Does it really?
Do you know how it kills dogs? Right. That's true. Erythritol is another polyol and it doesn't kill dogs. But did you know chocolate also kills dogs? So random. So the polyols in this case would be erythritol and xylitol. These are the ones. Sometimes I use some other ones like I think maltitol. Is it maltitol classified as a polyol? Right. Okay. So I know the carb killer contains maltitol.
But there's a big difference. Xylitol is not the same as maltitol. They belong to the same group of chemicals, but they affect you really in different ways. Maltitol spikes your insulin really, really high, whereas erythritol or xylitol are fine. So calling them all polyols might be a little bit misleading,
YouTube did a video where they tested different sweeteners, and I think some of these they tested to see what their results were for ketones and blood glucose, so that's a good video to look at. And some people have digestive problems with these. I do, so something to know.
Which one, do you know all of them, or is it just certain ones?
Erythritol, Truvia, xylitol, and people that have tested xylitol have a reaction to it as far as their ketones.
Yeah, some people are.
P.S. When you're test driving various anti-epilepsy drugs and you suffer from some of their side effects, that's one of the first things to go. If something is that as an ingredient, you need that bathroom in records or something. So I'm afraid it's, again, very much down to the way it reacts with whatever messed up my digestive system.
So you're saying everyone's personal, so everyone's reaction to these polyols. So I guess what we're seeing again with the polyols, it's another category which is kind of like fiber and carbohydrate. Is like, what does this stuff do? Well, it depends. And it depends on you, and it depends on which version of it. Is it this polyol? Is it that polyol? Is it this fiber? Is it that fiber? Is it this carbohydrate? Is it that carbohydrate?
Another note is that if you have IBS or SIBO, these are a no-no. So if you have any gut irritation, this can make it worse.
I just need some clarification because I try and eat less than 20 carbs a day, and your bar's 18.9, and the others are quite high too. So how does that fit in with a low carb diet?
So to just explain, you see this carbohydrate, and the two items below it are dashes. So those are inside the carbohydrates, so there's subcategories. So erythritol and xylitol generally don't increase your blood sugar.
Is it like fiber? You can just
Some of them, right? So carb killer, some of their polyols are maltitol, right? So someone else was just saying maltitol is a bit different. So it depends.
I can make it really simple for everybody if you're interested.
So there are only 3 sweeteners that people who want to be in ketosis that 3 sweeteners that won't kick you out. It's basically xylitol, erythritol, and stevia. That's it. Everything else is a no-no. And even for some people, one of the three that I've already mentioned can be still a problem. So sweeteners are rather a no-go if you want to be in ketosis, really.
So do you take
stevia is like the best choice.
You take 15.9 away from 18.9.
You have to test. Like, you might be fine with including the 20 with not counting the polyols, or you might have to count the polyols. It depends. Everybody's different.
I don't count.
So you just have to test your ketone levels. Eat polyols and see what happens, basically. Anybody else?
Has anyone heard of the ketogenic ratio? So the ketogenic ratio is basically, you have the classic ketogenic diet is a 4-to-1 ratio, which means 4 times more fat than protein and carbohydrate in terms of grams. So you would add protein plus carbohydrate together, and fat would be 4 times more. So for instance, we could have 40 fat, and we could have protein and carbs together would only be 10 grams, right? So 40 grams versus 10 grams. So what you do is you divide the fat by protein and carbs, and you end up with a ratio. And you're supposed to get to 4 if it's a classic keto diet, or if it's a moderate, it might be 3 or 2. That's basically the classic one was designed for epilepsy and other things, and that one's more extreme. And then most people, frankly, aren't following the classic ketogenic diet unless they have to today. Most people are following the moderate one, so that would be about 2. But we'll notice, basically, if we do that calculation on these numbers, none of the bars are ketogenic at all. They're all, way out. If you hack it, if you remove the polyols, and you say, there's our carbs, I'm not going to count those, and you recalculate it, right, 2 of the bars still don't do well. The ketone bar does better. You know, but it still makes using this thing, this nutrition facts, this nutritional profile that we see on all the packets, quite difficult to use, right? In terms of saying, oh, this is ketogenic or not.
Can I say something?
Absolutely.
So neither carb killer or keto bar are ketogenic just by looking at the label because they have too much protein in them. It's basically that's what it is. They're not keto friendly. Because if you have the bar on its own, it will kick you out. There's no, just because of the protein.
Well, look, according to the blood responses we've seen, you know, so the way I look at it is we only care what it does to our bodies. We don't care about all these numbers, these packets, what some regulatory body has decided is one classification versus another. No, these are simplifications, which are designed to help us, and they're changing over time as well. They just changed it in the US. You know, but most people use these, right? Ultimately, if you want to know what's going on in your body, you have to test. That's the only way to understand your body.
I mean, if you have it as a dessert on top of your meal, then maybe yes. But if you have it on its own, I doubt it because it's just not enough fat in there.
Sorry,
to make it ketogenic.
Which one?
The bun.
All of them.
Yeah, apart from yours, of course.
Well, you know, I just think they've got actually too many glycemic ingredients. Like my view, I don't want to buy it because it's.
What I was just trying to say, they're not strictly keto. You can't call them keto because there's a lot of protein, not enough fat. For that reason alone,
Yes,
they're not
because
keto.
right, because you're looking at this ketogenic model where we use a ketogenic ratio. Yeah, but you can have a bar with a ketogenic ratio or not a ketogenic ratio, which will give you a ketogenic response in your blood.
You
So
add
what's that?
MCTs to it or something like that, yeah? If you add MCTs to it, for example, is that what you mean?
Not even just because of the way that nutrition facts profile works, it's putting lots of different things into categories which don't do the same thing. You could have, like in that fiber, I could have all glycemic fibers, like polydextrose, like isomalt-saccharides, boom, my blood glucose goes up. It could be 100% fiber, it's going to tank me, it's not going to be ketogenic, but people are going to read the label and going to say, you know, that's really a awesome ketogenic food based on that label.
Well, because of the protein. I'm just saying.
Yeah, maybe. In this case, they have protein. These are some last thoughts. I don't know if they'll be helpful to you. These are some of the things we thought would affect the results before we went into it, so we were trying to control for them. Basically, ketogenic response, in my view, when it's personal, is driven by sleep quality, insulin resistance, whether you're ill, acute, or chronic, and your microbiome. So there's some things you can do to test. I've used all of these. I don't necessarily think many of them are very helpful. There's a test for your microbiome, which says it can predict your blood glucose. I don't necessarily subscribe to that. You can look at your inflammation markers. Sometimes inflammation is correlated with blood glucose. Or, you know, you can do these fasting insulin tests. But ultimately, what I found the most valuable is a continuous glucose monitor. Because it's monitoring you every day for, say, 2 weeks. You can buy a sensor for £50 and use your iPhone 7 or up to just basically flip it, and it will give you the readings. So that gives you 2 weeks of data when you're eating your normal foods, and it will show you whatever spiked you during that period. And whatever spiked you probably kicked you out of ketosis. So that will give you your personal response to foods, to ingredients on the label. So that's my view. Just what I found simplest to use. Any last thoughts?
Damien, can you go a bit more into the constant glucose monitoring, as in how we can apply it, as in, you know, to provide us more actionable data? So obviously you've just gone 2 weeks, wear it, see the swings, you can have a look at the foods. Is there anything else that we should be aware of, since you said that it seems to swing wider than standard glucose monitors?
Well, it's still great. You're just looking for the relative change, really. I wouldn't even say its baseline level is very accurate, because you know, I test the blood and it's not the same. So I'm just looking for change. If something really spikes me by 2-3 millimolar, And I've gone to restaurants and that happens a lot, even when it's supposed to be just
Okay,
a
so
convenience.
how did you, so technically, Damien, how did you apply the 2 weeks of test results to your life? As in actionable data, how did you implement it?
So for me personally, I noticed when I was a spike, and I would say, what did I just eat? It's really as simple as that, and that would help me to identify things that aren't ketogenic for me. It could have been a bar, it could have been a restaurant. I learned the main thing I learned, because my diet was pretty clean, meat in my case, was just at restaurants. No matter what I pick in a restaurant, they're putting sauces on it, they're cooking it in something, and it'll spike me nearly all the time. So I'm quite careful about which restaurants I use now. So that was the main thing it taught me. But for someone else, like most of the people I talk to, they're trying to take carbs and stay on a ketogenic diet, and they're trying to keep these foods in. And I think probably the biggest problem I've seen is that people aren't in ketosis, they're not really getting the full benefits of it, but they think they are. And they're trying to kind of go on the edge. Now if you're going to go on the edge, you kind of need a device to tell you that's too close to the edge.
So how did you best overlay this information with, let's say, some of your other data points? So obviously you've got constant glucose monitoring here. Did you overlay this with HRV, with your ketone measurements? How did you combine everything?
Well, I tried. I've been tracking HRV like you for a long time. I thought there would be a correlation. I didn't really find it. So I guess you collect a lot of data too. So I find most of the time I don't find very good correlations with stuff that I'm hoping to find. So I didn't see anything with HRV. I tell you again, the most interesting thing for me was just my response to foods. The only other thing I did notice was the sleep, more variability after bad sleep. So that would explain the sleep research. Basically, you're just seeing, you'll eat the same food, but you'll get a bigger spike out of it when you're sleep deprived, you've had bad sleep. So that was definitely something I saw too. So 2 simple metrics basically. What did I eat and how good was my sleep last night?
Okay, just looking at your ketogenic response bit there, as you've got sleep, insulin sensitivity, acute chronic illness. We don't have anything to do with exercise or general stress, which obviously does have a huge impact upon ketone production.
Yeah, so I don't really exercise a lot, so I couldn't comment on that. I wouldn't have seen that, but you would. I think you'd see similar results to Diane's. Sometimes in exercise, you should probably know this one way, right? You see a spike in glucose, right, when you're exercising, and then it will go down below baseline afterwards. Is that how it looks?
It drops.
It drops, and then it will probably increase again once you've had a repeat or something else like that.
Have you used CGM?
I'm looking to get one to obviously implement moving forwards for the new year, but obviously all the monitors are sold out.
Oh, are they?
Yeah. They've closed the shop at the moment.
That's actually happened before. Yeah. I think these devices are great, and I think that's why they.
Yeah. I think they've got there's a big push with the NHS, so there is a shortfall at this moment trying to get the £50 devices. So
yeah, the NHS is sponsoring it because they believe in it for diabetics, so yeah, I think they're having to scale up production.
So I think it'd be quite interested on people using a TKG or a CKG. So if you've got a targeted ketogenic diet or cyclical and you decided to put in carbohydrates or take them out, could be quite interesting to see the response.
Yep. So guys, I've just been actually told we have to get out of here. I just wanted to thank you all for coming and participating, because it's been a fun night.
Thank you.
Without you guys, there would be no experiments. So thank you.
Right. Do you want to do a Facebook?
If you guys have any questions, you can just email me through meetup or.
Guys, hope you enjoyed that. That was useful. We're signing off now.
I tell you something. I just want to make a comment here. It's a known fact that the greater the degree